Peak on the track.
Many fantasies are being transformed into reality by modern science.
Salute to everybody in the building. Oh my days. I'm amped right now. I'm amped. It doesn't matter how many people come in. I'm just amped. One, for this conversation. I'm amped for today. Had a good day. Trying some different things. Had to reset my my setup in the space in my house. So I'm a little anxious for what that looks like. It's still a work in progress. Still got some bugs to work out, but we are here. And as the night goes on, I need anybody who's going to be watching. Will probably be up for about an hour, so I don't want to drag it on too late. I've got some good fellas. I got one of my boys hanging out, rocking with us right now, and he's gonna be him. I'll bring him up to the stage in a little bit. I guess anybody, if you see the stream start struggling, let me know just so I can switch the internet. Right now I'm on the house Wi-Fi, but because I'm upstairs on the third level, it usually does do its own thing. But today was a good day. Today was a good day. Today was a good day. And I'm so glad to be in the building with all of y'all. Again, this is Darealreel. I am your host. Hold on, let me cam up just for a little bit. Can y'all see me? I know I ain't always that beautiful, but you know what I mean. I've got the kind of quote unquote Batman cave going on back here right now. But yeah, this is the real. I am your host, Cast Ty, aka Conrad, or if you want to flip it and say Conrad, aka Cast Ty. We are the real, where we are real people having real conversations about real things. And yeah, see, I'm like, I don't even like how the stream be bugging right now. Give me 1 second. Now, if it chips out for a little bit, don't worry about it. Everything is going to be all right. We are good. I think we're good. I think we're good. I think we're good. Nope. Give me 1 second. We're legit. We are legit. Okay, we're good to go. We're good to go. Again, thank you all for being here. Tonight's topic, we are really talking about men of standards. And so much so that we are going to discuss a little bit about if society is, I don't know if I want to say accepting, but does society value a man of standard or men of standards? So that's what we're going to be getting into a little bit tonight. I have a video that I'm hoping will kind of relay the sentiments that things that I've been thinking on. And as we share, and I share with the brothers tonight, I hope all of our brothers can be encouraged wherever you are, whenever you see this, whether you're in here now or you're joining in later on, or you watching this on the repeat. Likes, comments, share, critique, whatever it is, throw it our way and let's have a conversation. Let's have a dialogue, and let's let's grow together above all, because that's what we're here to do. I'm here to learn. I'm here to grow. And the brothers that I've been fortunate enough to give me 1 second, yo. Let me just close that. The brothers that I've been fortunate enough to meet in this space are really some humble, quality men of standards themselves. And I really value their opinion. I value their thoughts. I value their outlook. And it's great to meet them in this space. It's great to know them as we go forward. And I'm just excited overall. I am so excited. I'm so excited. And so if you guys don't see me on camera tonight, it's just because, yeah, I'm still working out some internet issues on my side of the quote unquote, as they would say, vineyard. So I'm trying to save a little bit of things and make sure I can get as nice and as clear as we can go for right now. So excuse me a moment. Uh, I hope everybody's doing well. Today was a good day. Funny enough, and before I actually get into that, let me first say this. If you don't know where to find us, you're like, man, how can I find you? How can I find you? How can I link up with you? First of all, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X as they call it, Threads. And it's very simple at Darealreel underscore SCE. That's DAREALREEL underscore SCE. YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. Find us, link up with us. We'll support you as you support us. Holla at your boy. And like I said, I'm so glad to be in the building tonight. you know what? Because I know this brother, you know what? And this is the type of love I'm talking about, and it's just really like, honestly, for me, it's awesome and it's humbling because I've got one of my brothers here that we're all kind of linking up behind the scenes, and it's a really good it's a really good time of fellowship and learning and growing with each other, and it's just really awesome overall. I'm going to bring to the stage, I call him, his name is Paulo Fessa. I call him Paulo. Paulo, what's up, my brother?
How we doing, brother?
I'm good, man. I am good. I cannot complain. I cannot complain. I'm so happy that you're able to be here tonight and rocking out with us. And I'm hoping that Truth and everybody else will kind of make their way in as they can. But we're gonna rock on. I usually don't stay on too late. Maybe about an hour or so, unless as more minds come in. I know there y'all guys got some great insight, so I'm excited. No, I'm a little bit nervous. I can't even lie because this will be the first time that like I'm doing a live stream and I'm having at least somebody rocking out with me in the beginning. Usually I kind of go through the intro and just kind of get into it, and I'm still trying to kind of pattern certain things out. So I really do thank you for being here and kind of being the first one in. And man, how was your day, man?
Yeah, it's been good. Look, it's a Saturday afternoon here in New Zealand. Yeah, I can't complain. I don't have many of these. I wish I did, but unfortunately, duty calls. So, yeah, look, I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying what we've got cooked in the background. And I'm appreciative of you and Truth sort of reaching out and wanting me to be a part of the vision that you guys are building. So, yeah.
Yeah, man, and definitely, like, you know what the funny thing is even about that is just that because I'm here in Canada, in Toronto, Canada, and kind of the first people that I met was Ali, by way of Men's Viewpoint through Traylon Curry and some of his guys, and I kind of popped up on a panel, one of his panels one night, and immediately it was kind of like a meeting of the minds, and we were all able to connect, and from there, kind of delving into the YouTube space, and kind of obviously the pandemic kind of afforded us to see the quote unquote power that YouTube kind of wields in its attraction and kind of replacement of the formerly known TV. And so kind of getting to see what Ali and Team Fatty and everybody was doing on that side, and some of the conversations that I had watched kind of stemming from the Lapeef Network show, and kind of wanting to get into, but not really know if what I had to bring to the table was relevant. And as I kind of sat in and was able to meet Truth, and it, definitely the great thing about this generation in this day and time is that social media has made the world so much smaller, and that we're all able to kind of come together and have these meetings where, we're cross time zone. I think you said it's Saturday afternoon where you are, so I think you're like 13 hours ahead on me from where I am. And I was like, that to me, that's amazing, because if it wasn't for the people, the individuals, and then social media itself, in terms of these outlets, I know I wouldn't have this opportunity and many others, right? So it's definitely awesome to see that. Truth reached out to me and was he's like, like, I like your mindset, and how you display yourself and how you carry yourself, and I've got a vision. And I was like, all right, so tell me about it. And kind of the same thing that he was thinking as I was kind of meeting different people in this YouTube space, it just kind of aligned really well. And I told him, I said, whatever you need from me on my side, I'm willing to, join the vision. I think it's definitely something that it's not too big of a task. And I think as time goes on, it'll be necessary. I believe the quote unquote either male space of YouTube has gotten some shade thrown at it. Some deserved, and then others in some cases may be misconstrued. And I think if there can be a group of us that can help kind of rally the troops and say, okay, guys, let's bring some clarity for those who are kind of seeing us for the first time in different avenues. And though they may hear different conversations, they know that it's coming from a place of love and wanting to unite the people for a greater outcome. So it's definitely great to see. And like yourself, I mean, I remember the first time I saw you came up, and it was funny because Ali looked at you. He's like, "Man, your camera's so crispy." I was like, "Man, you can give the man the compliments all you want. I'm on the back end. What's your contact? I need that. When the time's right, I'm gonna hit you up, and I'm gonna need some advice." So it just kind of all worked together, brother.
Yeah, look, I think first impression for me is very important. And this is not the camera, the mic, all of these things represent, I guess, the standards that we have, right? So for me personally, when the pandemic sort of came around, it put the world in this very peculiar space. And it showed us just how much we needed connection. And through either personal or professional lives, we sort of went online. A lot of our communication and a lot of our work through was done online. So my thought was, if I'm going to be online, how can I reflect the same sort of value system that I have in person to the online media? And podcast came through. I met Fatty on a different platform. We started having conversation. And although that might not really relate to anything at all, but my thing is, if I'm going to give you time, it means that I respect you to a high degree. And if I'm going to be involved, I would rather bring the absolute best, not as a, oh, look at me, but it shows for me in a sense, I revere you in the sense of, I'm going to give you my time, therefore I'm going to give you the best that I can. If it's the way that I articulate, at least let that be clear. If you can see me, at least let that be clear. And I think these are things that just bleeds through in terms of who we are as people, and the way that we show ourselves online oftentimes can be the true reflection of how we are in person. So yeah, look, it's not I don't see it as a flex. I don't do it for a flex. I do it in the sense of, I'm giving you my time, vice versa. Therefore, I need to respect that. So you might be hearing I've got some stuff in the background, so that's why I often go on mute, because I don't want to ruin the quality of people's show. So
No, definitely. I can respect that, man. Thank you for just being here. Like I said again, and I love you. Give me 1 second. I'm actually getting some messages as I'm going here because apparently Facebook is giving us some issues. And I had a feeling this might happen. I was just like, okay, you know what? I might tell everybody, you don't have a YouTube account, get one, because everybody we might just shift over to YouTube. But man, yeah, definitely thank you again. Even for the time that you're here, like I've learned to really. Oh snap! Hold on, we got our other brother. He's here too. Oh, y'all gonna make my man, man, man. I ain't supposed. I'm glad that I'm off camera because I ain't supposed to smile like this. I ain't supposed to smile like this.
What's going on, guys? How y'all been?
Sophisticated. I'm wilding over here. If you could, see, I'm not going to go on camera right now because it is messing with my connection in my house. But man, I'm so glad you are here. Salute to you, brother. Thank you. We were just kind of. We haven't really gotten into anything yet, but we're just sitting here chopping it up and kind of talking about the coming together. So thank you for being here, man. How you doing? How was your day?
Great, man. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I wasn't about to come up when my brother Apollo be cooking, man. I let him just talk, man. That's a smooth brother right there, man.
Oh, for sure, man. He, all of you guys though, but like even just again, I was just kind of commenting really on being in the space and kind of getting introduced to everybody. And he was commenting on there aren't any signs of it on Facebook. I think you need to change the audience to public on it. Sorry, guys.
Oh, no issue.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm still learning certain things. So it's just like apparently Facebook has decided to, for some reason, the audience is set to private. And so I'm not sure how that happened, but I'm gonna
I
just
think this is the first time I seen Paulo on a live not working.
oh no, he's going to the background, yo. He's dual tasking today, man.
I don't get many of these jigs, so I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. Awesome. This is see, this is why me and Facebook not really friends. Because I cannot stand how you can set up a live stream. Make it I'm pretty sure I set the audience to be not private, where everybody could just come in as they feel. And that also probably means somebody's not a follower. If they can see me or hear me, you know, you need to follow the page. Stop being a like we grow it. Just grow with me, homie. Grow with us. Grow with us. Okay, so I'm gonna be kind of trying to fix this as we go, but I don't want to hold up time. Because I'm really interested in the aspect of what we're talking about, which is men of standard, and does our society value men of standards? Specifically speaking, from the aspect, or I guess questioning from the aspect of, on one hand, what I see on social media. I can't say necessarily that up here in Canada, pardon me, that there isn't a lack of respect for men who live who or what they say they are, what they're looking to achieve. I don't know too much of the climate in different parts of the world. I think overall, I try to be careful of trying to find a narrative in that, because I feel like social media, in terms of posts, can just really give you a very skewed point of view. And so, unless you're connecting with people, and in some cases, unless you're on the ground in that land or in that city, seeing how people interact in the nuanced spaces of their homes and jobs and, their grocery stores and whatnot, you really can't build that type of narrative where the man is a man of standard is not respected. But I do believe that maybe, just maybe, we haven't done the best on social media to a high degree, or even at maybe a mid-level. Maybe I'm just being really harshly judging of it, but I think there's still levels that we can grow to show the value of a man of standard. What do you guys what do you guys think on that?
No, I totally agree. I think the conversations got kind of stale now. So I see why a lot of people came into space, because I think they were trying to highlight behaviors and stuff, but it got to the point where it became so one-sided, and it came too focused, I'll say, on like what issues women have, and people didn't take the time to self-reflect, like, okay, what do we need to do that's better? It kind of lost that side of it, where it became so imbalanced, and it's almost to the point now people are obsessed with like those conversations and stuff. So I think we do need to bring it back, kind of to what you're talking about, Conrad, where it's like we got to bring the standards in there. I don't know if people don't respect people with standards. What I'm kind of seeing now, because I typically, people with standards are pretty successful, so I think people respect the outcome of standards, because it's hard to, like, if somebody got good outcomes, and you can see it, you respect that, but I don't think they respect the process of, to get up to that point with the standards and stuff like that. And then I also think there's some I'll say jealousy to it, because like I said, people with standards tend to have like good outcomes. You tend to be positive. So it's like your stuff is pretty much together. So I think people a lot of times want to poke holes into it, because they might be lacking in some areas. So instead of like coming to somebody like Paulo or yourself that has like a a good foundation and stuff, and just asking those questions, so you can gain that knowledge and try to build yourself up. It's almost like I said, it's like, let me try to tear this down because I don't want to put in that work or something like that. So I'm kind of seeing that more now. So sorry for rambling on. I just I like the question you was asking.
Yeah, I think there's it's not necessarily, and I think the YouTube space have done a disservice in terms of really showcasing, respect for men of standard. I think what we're seeing is a lot of people playing certain characters for certain business models that they want to at least try and be successful in terms of their content creation career. This is why when people ask me, are you ever going to make, a page or a channel? And I say, no. Not only am I too damn busy in my real life, but I don't see the value in terms of myself doing that. I'd rather be part of a conversation with solid people on this space and at least provide some value from that aspect. Look, I think what needs to really be hashed out is what is a standard in it, and what value does it bring, right? Because standards is not just an interpersonal thing. Standards are everywhere. Even in the professional world, things are driven by standards, right? So my sort of definition of it, and I've sort of butchered a lot of different things to derive this. Standards is a framework for communication, comparison, improvement, and ultimately to advance. That's what a standard is. And when we look at what qualities those things are, on another side, Conrad, there's a brother who follows suit the same sort of conversation that you have, which he's got a show called The Masculine Mind, and Jerk has been part of that conversation for the last couple of months. We throw into the table three things, and we call it the three tenets of masculinity: accountability, resilience, and discipline. These are our standards, and we hold ourselves accountable to those standards each and every day. And it's quite funny when Will and I have these conversations in the back, and he talks about certain experiences that he has with women, and how easy it would have been for him to fall into temptation. But
Right.
one of the occurring thoughts that he has is, what would Paolo say? What would Jerk say? What would Manic say if I make these decisions? Although they might not be here, but what would they say, and how would I face them knowing that I made these decisions? They might not know, but I will. So this is why, being able to articulate what is the importance in having standards, what is it, and how effective it is when practiced, especially for us as men. Because just as I presented that example, it's what we do in terms of our own privacy. And there's a word that we use very regularly and throughout often. It's integrity. And integrity is often showcased when no one's around to witness what you've done.
Right. Wow. It's funny because a lot of the points that I was jotting down today, you actually just ran through them and things that I was thinking. But to kind of stretch this conversation, further as we go along, the aspect of accountability, I really and solemnly believe that must be, and not must as I'm dictating to everybody in this world that that's what they must live by. But I think especially for men, especially in this modern day and time that we are in, accountability must be a key piece of our foundation. And the reason why I say that, because the first person that we must be able to be accountable, I really believe solemnly, truly, is ourselves. I must be able to account on myself, to help myself in some regards, whether it's learning, whether it is asking for help. There's going to be times where accountability is, I don't know this, and I'm going to reach out to Sophisticated, or I'm going to reach out to Paulo and say, hey, do you have knowledge on this topic? Right? To not to be too I don't want to thump the Bible, but I love Proverbs where it speaks about that if one who considers himself wise, how's why he yokes himself, or he connects with wise counsel, other people who are wise or more intellectually sound or mature than the person's self. And I have lived that and seen that as a first line of a benefit, that if I want to be better, if I want to get ahead, if I want to really live the picture of what is a man in my mind, then I've got to be accountable to myself first by doing the work and finding out different lanes and avenues that I can manifest this or bring this to an actual tangible model. And I believe that I've learned specifically within the last I would say more transparently and tangibly that that needs to be the fabric, especially within the last 3 years. I'd say maybe 4 to 5 years, actually. I'm kind of going through different things with my own family and my wife and my kids. But the one thing that kind of really made me kind of sit and ponder this question was because I was off for a couple weeks. And when I say off, I mean just away from YouTube and away from, social media. And I was kind of I saw an interaction, and there was, questions from the left side coming out and questions from the right side. And, this person is in the middle and they're kind of getting hurled on. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, and I'm like, on one hand, I could say that I have the solution to whatever they're going through. However, if am I holding myself accountable enough to be able to give them this? Am I living what I'm about to go and deliver to this person? And I think again, just to kind of land what I was originally thinking, is just that accountability to self is necessary if I'm going to be accountable to any one of you brothers.
I think the fact that you made that assessment shows that you are capable of doing that. That you will pause and make sure that you have your own house in order before you go out there and tell people stuff. Because I'm the same way. I make sure that I'm kind of cautious how I speak about certain things. But like I went down that path, like you said, to make sure that I'm living a certain way. But also, with that, I'm humble enough to say like, hey, I'm not perfect, and if somebody has a better example at something, it's like humble yourself and let that person like take the floor at that point. Cause it's like, even though we all are probably like leaders in our own situation, it's just like, you could still be a follower if somebody is stronger in something else. And I think that's where, people got to understand. It's just like, I see a lot in this space where it's just, it's like a fight for some hierarchy, and it don't need to be like
Mhm.
that. It's just like, hey man, we all got our stuff together. If Paulo's cooking and he's got a great breakdown on something, man, let him have it, man. Like we all come together, and it just makes us stronger getting the word. So I do a lot of listening, and that's one thing I recognize about all you guys is just like, you guys are pretty much the same way, where it's just like, we ain't got to jump in there and try to hog the mic or something, or tear down somebody to like put yourself up, for something. So now I like what you said, Conrad, because yeah, when you said that off the rip, I knew you are ready to kind of walk people through stuff if you took that accountability.
Yeah, man. It's come out of like when and it's funny because my wife always says to me, "Oh, you're not like that anymore. You're a different person. You're a different man, and you're not a little boy anymore. You've come out of that. Well, why even think about it?" And I often tell her that the reason why these who I used to be is not necessarily a monument in my mind, but more of a reminder. It is to keep me in check when I see a situation or a circumstance, and rather than rushing to villainize or cast that judgment, I want to find the balance in what I'm going to say and in what I'm thinking. So that way, no matter if we disagree, I can still enhance a conversation, because that's ultimately who I am at my core. I like to be around people. I like to converse with people. I like to learn. I like to disagree. And I feel that you can actually gain a lot out of that. That's what that, as I was paraphrasing the scripture out of Proverbs, that's what that means to me. It doesn't mean that you're gonna like my plan all the time. And in some cases, it may just be like, hey, I just had this wild thought and I think it's really great. And you're like, well, it's really unfiltered, but it's something that you can build off of. Okay, enlighten me. What do you think about this? How do you feel about this? What does this say to you? And over the last couple days, there's been, aside from the situation that I was watching while I was off, um, there was something else. Paulo, the third thing that you mentioned, you said accountability. What was the other two again?
Resilience and discipline.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I don't even know which one I would want to hit on first, whether it's discipline or resilience, but kind of what I was segueing to, I guess I'll pick on resilience. Um, I really do believe, and my grandfather actually taught me this, but he didn't tell me about it in the word of resilience. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. He would always say to me, and he was partially deaf. So his speech had some in kind of displacement to it. And he was very rough and kind of cut and dry. And he would always say, "You've got to try." That's how he said, "You've got to try. You're a man. You have to try. Nobody's going to come in and do this for you. You've got to try." Every time he would, if he's giving me some money, "You've got to try." If he, asking me to, go with him grocery shopping, or he's showing me how to cook something, everything, you've got to try. And I would always look at him and be like, why is your consistent message, if it's raining, I gotta try. If it's sunny, I gotta try. If I just won $1 million, I've got to try. Like, grandpa, like, what is it about trying? And when I was younger, we used to have my grandmother and my grandfather, they used to have this house that was sitting on maybe like about 3 acres of land. But there was a side of it that really and truly, we all looked at him and we were like, okay, call, some professional like contractors and let's get that. And he looked at us and he was like, for what? For what? I can do it. I'm a man. I was just like, man, okay, I get it, grandpa. You got this. But I knew what that was coming with. That was coming with, go change your clothes and come outside with me. So we had this one tree, stubborn tree. And my grandfather actually taught me how to search for the roots based on how the ground was leveled. And he sat there for about an hour. And I'm sitting there looking at him thinking that he's walking in an aimless direction. And he explained to me that basically he was following the ground, the wave of the ground and the displacement of the ground and the unevenness, because those were where the thicker roots were. So he wasn't worried about where the smaller, weaker roots were, or the more frail root stems were. He wanted the thicker ones because he wanted to break those up. And so we sit there and we're going around and we're breaking them up and we're breaking them up. So I'm thinking like, okay, he's going to call somebody, dig this up out of the ground. Oh no, he grabbed the tree with 2 hands. It wasn't really a big tree, but much bigger than me at the time. He grabbed it after we chopped it and he shook it. And all I heard was crack, 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 crack. And when I looked, he just one big yank took the tree out of the ground. And I was like, and he looks at me and he goes, "See, you've got to try." Until the day he died, that was his message to me. And we're talking about a man that was partially blind, had half of his brain was swollen, um, partially deaf. His first wife, before he met my grandmother, left him in Jamaica with his kids. He took them, went to England, became a tradesman, came back to Jamaica, moved them out of Jamaica into Canada by himself, not really fully having the mental ability and the intellectual ability to really understand the workings, but was able to buy a house, set himself up with a good company in Canada. Now he's got a UK pension, he's got a Jamaica pension, and he's got a Canadian pension coming in. Then he meets my grandmother, they get married, and when he passed on, he left her with about 3 to 4 different pensions. All out of the phrase that you've got to try. he would never, he would console me if I was crying. But that aspect of resilience, that message carried me. And I was sitting down with somebody and I said to them, it was actually today while I was at work, and I went to a certain part of town about 2 weeks ago while I was off. And this is actually something I kind of resoluted within myself that I was going to share on this with you guys. Back in 2008, by my own ignorance, I was homeless. Like homeless. The only thing that didn't look homeless about me is because I had so much of an ego that as much as I knew I made these bad decisions, I didn't smell like I was homeless, and my clothes were always clean. I kind of actually had a stash of clothes at my friend's house, and I would travel almost like 10 kilometers from wherever I was staying to go and change at his house, or grab my fresh clothes, drop my old clothes off there, get those washed, go to the local community center, go work out and put on a good workout so I could go use the shower, then go shower and be totally clean in clean clothes. So I never really looked like I was homeless, but I was homeless. And so 2.5 weeks ago, I'm going to a meeting after work, and I step in this side of town, and now the whole area of where I was homeless in 2008, it's all developed now, and they got these nice condos and stuff, and there's a nice restaurant. I look at the restaurant, and I say, you know what? Before I go to this meeting, let me just go sit down and let me just walk into the restaurant and get a drink, just chill out for a little bit. I walk in there, and immediately when I walk in, there was a girl who was the barista. When I was homeless, I still trying to look fly and trying to keep my spirit, my ego about me. I tried to talk to her. She didn't really give me the time of day. I don't know if she really picked it up that I was homeless or not, but she didn't give me the time of day. And I walk into this establishment, and she's the lead barista, the barista. And I look at her and I say, hey, how are you doing? How's the night going? As we're conversating, she doesn't remember who I am. So I just say, okay, I'm gonna sit here at the bar, and I'm sitting down, and I'm looking all around this establishment, and I'm looking through the windows, and I'm looking at the people and everybody, and enjoy their dinner and enjoy their company and whatnot. And I'm literally said to myself, you in 2008, you weren't married, you didn't have no kids, you were homeless, you didn't have a dime to your name. And because you refused, you made up in your mind that you would be able to come back down here one day and be far better than who you were at that time. Look what you did for yourself. I was like, I didn't answer myself, but I was actually in that moment, I was like, I'm glad I was able to count on myself. I'm glad I didn't just say, okay, well, this is it. This is my life. And had I not had that underlying or foundational message from my grandfather to just get up and try, I would have no aspect of resilience. And I think that is something that is plaguing this generation today. And specifically, again, because anybody who watches this, I have some of my godchildren's mothers. I've sent them the link so that they can play this again for their sons, because I want them to understand, and I want them to not just hear again from myself, but I want them to understand that there are certain things that as a man you can have. And accountability was one that I wrote down in my notes. I didn't write down resilience, but it was in my mind. What does resilience mean how has it impacted either of your lives? Paulo, go first.
Yeah, so I guess, this is why it's very important for men in general to have at least other men that they can model after. So just like your story about your experience, I give credit to my father a lot of the time because he taught me many great lessons. And he was of a generation where words didn't mean much if your action didn't match it. So part of the lessons were the way he disciplined me. It went this way: I'm going to give you an instruction. That is me giving you grace for your ignorance. If you decide to do the same thing I've given you instruction not to do, now you're ignorant. I can appreciate that you're ignorant, accepting the consequences. That is the first and last warning. If you continue to do so, then you will receive the punishment. And the punishment were given to me prior. So what did that teach me? It taught me to be accountable to the decision. If you're going to make a decision knowing full well what the consequences are, you better be ready to receive those consequences. Another time is, my father grew up having to work 3 jobs because his previous marriage put him through the court system. And what that meant was he had to pay child support. Very different law and legality in Tonga, but essentially he had to pay up a certain amount of money. And the way that he told the story, it wasn't more so to complain about his ex-wife, but it was to show these are the things that I had to do. And the reason why I had to do that is because I married this woman and I had a child to her. And I want to at least tell you the story so that you can understand. So one of his jobs were a bartender at one of the hotels in Tonga. So he was a frequent alcohol drinker and he enjoyed his booze. My brother, on the other hand, was a LDS missionary. And when he finished his mission, he came back and converted my father. So I asked him the story. So you tell me all these stories that you were partying, you were drinking, smoking, all these great things that I look at you and go, what a great life. How much of an effort did it take you in order to convert into the Mormon church, which they had a pretty strict rule around those kind of things. You were to not partake in alcohol, you were not to partake in caffeine, nicotine, all these things that he explained his prior life. And what he gave me, I didn't understand until a lot later in my life, and it was, when a man gives his word, he gives a promise. And it is his responsibility to honor that promise. And although at the time I was not very understanding of what he said, but as I sort of developed, and I think what really gave me the clarity was in my fifth form, I think it was. I had a great chemistry teacher. And one of the things that he told us right before the term start was, I'm going to give you my principle. And this is my principle for life in general. I have only 2. And they are, if you start something, you finish it. And if you're not going to give it your all, you might as well not start it at all. When he said that to me, my father's words became a lot more clear, in the sense of, it's not just being accountable to your own words and your own decision, but it's also having the ability to be extremely disciplined in what you do, and understanding that you require resilience, because at times it'll be difficult to keep your own promise. So that's a big influence in why we came up with the 3 sort of tenets. And that's why for me, when I look and analyze my own life, I wouldn't be here where I am now if I didn't practice at least one of those things. And you know, I was in a podcast prior to being in the space, and I was asked, and I'm very open with this, why did you choose a single mother as your wife? And my answer was, because of the way that my father raised me. My father wasn't biologically mine, and he had 3 children that weren't biologically his, including me. And what he said to me was, whether you're biologically mine or not, and whether you grow up to either love me or hate me, doesn't change the fact that I'm a man, and therefore I'm going to be a father. I'll do the best that I can to raise you to grow up to be a man, but what you do regardless won't change the fact that I'm a man and I'm a father. So I'm sort of trying to connect many different things while I'm rambling on, but essentially accountability for me is, and I have this conversation with my wife, oftentimes she gets a bit emotional. She sees certain things and she asks a question. Do you think you'll ever get to a point where I'm no longer enough to you? And often my answer is, if that day ever comes, then I'm not truly the man that I say I am. I made a decision on the day that I asked you, commit to me. And I honor that decision each and every day, because I'm honoring the value system that's been passed on to me. And not only that, I value those value system to the point that I want to pass them on to our children. I cannot do that if we're in separate house. And not only that, I revere that you have stood by my sides in rise and falls all throughout the last almost a decade of being together. So it's not just accountability for me. I think there is a harmonious relationship between the different threes that oftentimes they can be seen one or the other. But for me, it's a harmony of those threes all put together to make what my version of a man of standard is.
Sophisticated. Go. Hey, brother. Wow.
Yeah. Paulo just ruined my question I have for you guys. I was gonna ask you guys to try to rank those three, but I like what he said, because I was thinking about it. I was like, how the hell will you rank these? But I like how he said they kind of go like hand in hand, because I was thinking about it. I'm like, shit, accountability, that's important. Resilience, that's important. So I was like trying to rank them in my head and stuff, but I like what he said. I think resilience definitely is important, because like I think we always talk about accountability, but until like I jumped on the podcast with him, just never really thought about resilience like that, and I think it's critical, because and Paulo kind of touched on it, and so did you, Conrad, with your story, man. And thanks for sharing that, man. And it's like life is hard, man, and being human, there's times where you're just thrown so much, whether it could be a death in the family, responsibilities, but it's just like you gotta push through it, and you don't have time to stop. And I'll just share like a story with me, man. My mom passed in 2017, and we were very close. Mom was pretty young, healthy diet and stuff, and caught cancer, and it was just like that thing just ate through her quick. And my son came to me, after she passed, and he was like, "Hey, man, how the hell like you are going to work and stuff, and you ain't taking no time off?" I was like, "Hey, man, I got a responsibility to you guys." So I was like, as hard as it is, hey, man, the Xfinity, they want they check, man. They, they ain't gonna give like a pat on the back and be like, "Hey, man, we understand, man. Take 4 months off." That's not gonna happen. So I was like, "Hey, man, I got a responsibility. I gotta hold myself together." Even with that, and like you guys were saying, it's just like I think when you become that parent or a husband or whatever, man, you got that responsibility to make sure your family's in a good state. And it's funny, me and my wife was having some conversation like that. We were talking about leadership and stuff. And I was just like, dude, when you're a leader, I was like, it kind of sucks, because a good leader is going to make it comfortable for everybody else to complain. It throws shots at you, but it's like, you understand, like, hey, even though I'm taking all this burden and all that and all these shots, the fact that I can allow you guys to be that comfortable, I'm cool with that. So yeah, it's just embedded in so much stuff. And even thinking about your grandfather, Conrad, just think about what they had to go through, the limitations. And because my grandfather's 91, I remember, him and my grandmother would tell me the stories, like they had to drink at separate water faucets. My grandma was in like the first, I say, wave of Black students that went to college and stuff. And, they were seeking the dogs at them. And even with all that stuff, they were still like, we're going to take this opportunity to get that education. So it was kind of embedded at me, like, look, whatever's thrown at you, you got to go through it, because you got to think ahead for the like next generation and stuff. So I think that resilience, like if you're a man of standard and you got that embedded in you, you understand, like, it's really not about me. It's for like my future legacy and generations and stuff. I got to set that example in so they understand the path forward, because it's easy. Like you said, if you tap out and you stay complacent with that, a lot of times you see people's generations start mimicking that behavior and stuff. And, they'll give up. They'll be like, look, my father, he ain't do nothing. We're good. So,
Yeah.
definitely is important.
You know what? I don't want to skip past your question, because, and we might, as much as we may all agree, I from a personal life view, I was raised in, as much as I had my grandmother and my grandfather, my uncle, and a few of my aunts, not all of them, but a few of them. Um, Raised to a single mother, and this is going to kind of segue into something where I want to go into next for the young men, and maybe to help other brothers or parents, mothers, fathers who will see this as it gets reposted and shared. Um, Usually when a kid gets brought up in a single parent home, and especially if there's siblings, they have to grow up faster. And some people will see that kid and be like, oh, they're very well mannered and they're very well put together. And you touched on this, Sophisticated, where you said that they're in a position where they're kind of leading and taking the charge on these tasks because they're really being respectful to mom and pops, or mom in general, or whoever's there. But they don't really want to do that. As a kid, they don't want to do that. They want to go out and play, but they got to sacrifice, and they got to come home, and they got to make sure the other siblings, or everybody's good, and make sure home is good. And sometimes home is even placed above homework, and they've got to kind of have an awareness, or hopefully they have some type of awareness that homework does got to get into this mix before I go to bed, or what have you. But to hit your question, I believe that for me, I would rank discipline number one, because discipline for me, discipline is parallel to accountability, and those two together build, birth, and consistently reinforce resilience. Because discipline, I think we've all said it in some form or some phrasing, that discipline to a degree will keep you accountable even when you may not want to be. Whether you're tired, whether you're frustrated, whether it's a minute, whether it's a day, whether it's a month or a week, I really believe that discipline, and it goes back to something that Paulo said. I made a commitment to you. I made a promise to you. I gave you my word. And so, aside from these three tenets, we can, as we scale down the line and somebody says, okay, well, it's easy to say, what is a man? If a man is not his word, then he's not a man. But there's layers to this, and you can't just skim over them to just give somebody this phrasing. And I think this is why I really wanted to have this conversation, whether it would have been by myself, but specifically with other people, because I want to really say this out loud, regardless of what the society is, or actually, that's a society. I mean, really, social media and its clips. Fellas, if you're watching this, if you're 13, if you're 12, if you're 14, if you're 20, if you're 25, 40, 50, I don't care. You're about to say you're only going to be greedily accountable to yourself. Please reset your mindset, and hone this back in. Bring it back in and reset your foundation, because I don't believe you can be successful without discipline. You're going to have a resilience to see the journey through. And I'm hoping, if you're 12 and you watch this and you see this cast, don't count yourself out because things look hard, because it really and truly, things, the higher you go, there's going to be a different level of hardness. It's no different than your quote unquote video game. To some degree, you're going to get to that next level where there's going to be a boss at that next level. There's going to be some task, some mountain, however you want to phrase it, whatever you want to title it. There's going to be something that is going to test you if you are worthy to get to that next level. And to the men that are watching this, you have gone through what you have gone through enough to this point where you are listening now, where we're here. This is an encouragement to you. Reset your foundation, reset your mind, and get ready for your next level, because everything you came through, as tired as you are, there's still greater ahead. Sorry, you guys don't have to get used to me doing that, because this is what we're about right here. You know, a lot of times I encounter a lot of young men in so many different phases, and I again, for the guys that I met, even Sharon, I don't know if he's still on the cast or not, if he sees this or not, but I was telling him the other day, the other morning when I jumped on his live before I went to work, when me and him first came on, met on Ali's panel, we were disagreeing. I'm sitting here cussing him out, and he's cussing me out, and then I'm still sitting there behind the scenes cussing him out, coming, and it's funny because Paulo, you touched on this in the beginning where you're saying, you know, messages getting lost in translation because we're of contrary actions and what we're doing. And you know, we were talking about parenting, and he commented on something and kind of set the whole panel back. And for me, it riled me up. So I'm coming at him from where I'm riled up. And it's after we get off the panel now, I'm looking at my son, I'm looking at my daughter, I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, yeah, he ain't wrong. he ain't wrong. He ain't wrong. And the thing is with me, one thing my uncle said to me when I was younger, but I've really tried to continually put into practice, especially since I've been on my own, and even furthermore getting married and having my own kids now, is again making sure that because I always say I want to grow, I want to expand my intellect, I want to be a good friend and a good brother, I want to be my brother's keeper wherever, how far you are, it doesn't matter. I want to make sure you know that when you talk to Conrad, when you confide in Conrad, when you're going to do something, Conrad has your back. And so I next time I saw him on a panel, I said, hey man, I said, I ain't trying to hijack nobody's show, but I was like, Sharon, I owe you an apology, because the same words that I was basically getting at you have already in a week made me a better father. So salute to you. And
Yeah,
so
like Sharon, Sharon be getting me through my work day, man.
Yo, that's what I'm hoping because he's on a task right now, but I'm hoping when he's done it, he'll get a chance to jump up on here. Really quick before we go in, for everybody that is on Facebook, I'm gonna cut down the Facebook feed, and everybody, if you can, jump over to YouTube. If you can't, we'll repost this from the beginning probably tomorrow sometime on Facebook, so don't worry, you won't miss this. Thank you for those who are on Facebook rocking out with us, but now we're gonna end off of Facebook. Okay, bye guys.
So
Hey,
Conrad, you
check
said
this.
real quick, you said discipline.
Yeah, discipline, and
Yeah.
I really feel like discipline and accountability, or they're parallel to each other, but they birth, they reinforce, and they fuel resilience.
Okay. I like that, Paulo. I'm interested what you about to say.
Yeah, check this. I think discipline is second. I think accountability should be core. And the reason for that is I think accountability is so lost on these conversations where, and Jack knows this because I mentioned it on other podcasts, people use accountability as the beating stick to hold people, you know, to a standard that no one even understand what the standards are. So accountability, what is accountability? Your word. When a man gives his word, he gives a promise, whether to himself or to others, right? So accountability in the sense of, if I decide to do this thing, I'm accountable to that decision. And when you continuously think in such manner, it will cultivate discipline. And what I found personally for accountability is that discipline was just a natural byproduct of being accountable to one's word and to one's promise, right? And by going through that, you know, my professional life has been one of these things that taught me accountability. I used to party hard, and by partying hard, it put me in predicament where the next morning would be extremely difficult to get up and go to work. But those little reminder of accountability is, you chose to do the thing you did last night. Not only that, you have a responsibility. Get your ass up and get to work. Oh, but I don't want to wake up before. I just got home at 2 o'clock in the morning. Get your ass up, get to work. These are inner monologues and dialogues that I've had. And it got to a point where it has become a discipline of mine to party and to go to work. And my wife understands this because when we initially met, it was sort of the last few years of me committing to this habit of alcohol. And one of the things that she saw that she comments on every now and then when she makes comparison is, it's interesting that you've gone through the drinking habit that you had, but every morning you would get up and go to work as if nothing happened the night before. So the reason why I'm using that as somewhat of an example is that's accountability in practice. And accountability practice in repetition becomes discipline. And then discipline yields resilience. Now at a later stage, when the body is no longer at the point where I can spring back every morning, we now have to remind ourselves, okay, I need to be disciplined. And not only that, I require resilience in terms of the vision that I have for myself, for my family, for my children. These things now need to be a reminder rather than a byproduct. I think these things alone is a fool's errand, but when you mix all three, it becomes a relationship that it's robust enough to carry you through all the different stages of your life. So that's, for me, accountability is the most tangible thing. If you're a young man looking at these values and go, which one should I throw the dart at first and let it stick before I try the others? I think personally accountability, because it's those little inner monologues and dialogues that you have with yourself. I made a decision to do this degree. I should see it all the way through. I should give it everything that I should have. Halfway through, just not working out. But you made a commitment 3 years ago. Keep going. You're almost there. And these things for me just ultimately breeds discipline, and resilience is a byproduct of those things.
Yeah, great answers. This is kind of tough, man. What I was because both of y'all got a lot of good answers.
Go.
And it's like there ain't
We've
no
all taken a turn. You got to go.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna say resilience. I think resilience is first, because I think even if you're lost and you don't, you're not at the point where you have like the discipline and you're not taking accountability. I think sometimes you might have like mental toughness, and you're just gonna push through things, and it's just like by pushing through, I'll say like any obstacle or object that's in your way. I think you could come into find like your path to a certain degree. You run into people that like could give you the insight and probably help guide you and stuff and give you the accountability. Because I mean, that's kind of the path I had to take, where I was like a knucklehead. So I had the mindset like, somebody challenged me, I'm pushing through it. I wanted to prove people wrong and stuff. So I had no direction. Discipline was non-existent. But it's just like by moving forward, went into the military, then I started developing like, some discipline from that. And then, of course, throughout that process, I started kind of taking accountability for, my actions. When I started getting right with the Lord and stuff, I had a moment where I just started picking up the Bible, and I was just like, dang, man, I got a lot of work to do on myself. So I started kind of like reflecting and, making them changes. So yeah, it started off, I'll say resilience, because I just had to, like I said, I think, all of us exhibit that mental toughness, where it's just like you have that mindset. Because like I said, life is just hard, where, a lot of people just end up, quitting that stuff. And then, like I said, next would be taking accountability, and then, discipline. Because like I said, it was the military, then accountability. But I liked all y'all answers. That's why I was like, I was going back and forth. But yeah, for me, I think it was just the path that I took. That's why I said that. But I do think y'all's is more in line what you should, the path you should take.
You know what? Sorry, go on, Paulo. Go ahead.
I think what this conversation is highlighting is how interesting it is. And I think, speculating here, I think the reason why we're drawing sort of different priorities could speak more to when we came into realizations of what value systems that we want to develop and why those things are important. Um, and it's interesting in the sense that it's making me now think, is it important to prioritize one over the other, or is it much more important to recognize what are the capabilities that you have, whether it's discipline, whether you're resilient, or whether you're accountable, and understanding that that's a great starting point regardless of what of those threes you have. So you're making me think. Well, both of you are making me think now, and it's I enjoy these conversations because now I'm playing that in my head, and I really appreciate this, Conrad, and to you, Jerk, for making me think this way. I love it.
You know what the great thing is and you kind of touched on it, and I kind of want to go from there. And I mean, both of you are actually touched on, so I want to play this clip from Kevin Samuels. Okay, before I get into that, I just want to say this one, right? I claimed him actually as an uncle. I was one of those followers. I can't lie to you guys. I was one of those followers because, again, on my search for, especially getting married, I think it was within my first, well, actually, but by the time we hit the pandemic, right? Pandemic is in full swing. And so now I'm working from home, and like I'm working, but I'm like, I need something like I've mastered my job. I'm good. I know how to manage my time effectively. Like I need something else to keep my attention, right?
Yeah.
So I'm tuning into his episodes, and I'm tuning into the early episodes though. Okay. I'm tuning into the early episodes where like men, you sitting there trying to chase these girls down, and you ain't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. Who the hell do you think you are? And then, in other conversations where he's more reserved, if nothing's triggered him, and he's talking about, the steps on becoming a man, and not the aspect of the high value man that just took everybody by storm and made everybody want to talk about, high value man and money and all this stuff. But he said just the bare components of a man. And so as he was talking about that, I really drew to him because I'm still in this mode where I'm still fresh into my marriage. I'm fresh in fatherhood, and I'm really trying to make sense of, quote unquote, like this new world, this new whirlwind going on, where I'm trying to like stabilize everything, but like I'm not doing it by myself, but I want to be the man because I'm a leader and I'm the husband and blah 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 and all this stuff. And I'm trying to like, okay, who do I lean on? And this is actually, after we watch this clip, this is something that I kind of want to ask you guys. And actually I wrote this down in my notes earlier. But it was just, it's just like, overall, I think there's an aspect of, like you said, sophisticated, where it's like the path that you take introduces to you to one of these three things, though you have them in your core altogether, where you encounter them. And Paulo, you actually touched on something that, again, that's in my notes: skill set, right? Both intellectual skill set, the tangible physical skill set of your hands. So the skill set of your mind, the skill set of your hands. I think this is another thing that it may not be part of the three that we've already mentioned and we fixated on, but you touched on it based on the fact of, and it kind of ties into what Sophisticated said with the path that we took individually, right? And those paths will they're all going to intersect with all of these three. And I really believe that, especially, again, for now, the guy who maybe has been written off socially, whether it's by his family and it's maybe by, his own doing. At some point, in some point in my life or another, I've had the experience where, whether it's accountability, resilience, or discipline, where I've had to lean on one of those more than the other to be able to affect a certain outcome, or get to a certain outcome and affect a certain amount of change in myself. So there's sometimes where I have to just be resilient, that I'm not going to bend and I'm not going to break from this, because the adverse of what I was doing before wasn't working for me. And now I've got to change that. And because I have to really take this ship and turn it around as fast as I can before before I go off the cliff. I don't have too much time to negotiate on how disciplined I'm going to be, because it's in sometimes that negotiation with ourselves where we actually tend to lose. And oftentimes, I think this is where young men get caught up in these conversations, or caught up, lost. I use these terms interchangeably, with this whole mindset of well, what if she divorces me, what if she takes all my, well, what is that? No offense. Why are you worried about that? If you're not accountable to yourself, you're not disciplined to yourself, you're not resilient, and you're worried about a situation that is going to take more fortitude for you to still remain resolute, and, as we would say, or the space would say, in frame. There's nothing more, or there's nothing worse than a severe emotional storm that will rip you and give you all the green lights to be like just a melting pot of emotions, and just become unhinged almost. And you have to still find that resilience to balance yourself in how you feel, enough to find what I would say is just a brief window to say, okay, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to make it out? What do I need to implement? What do I need to change? To get to that skill set, you're going to have an awareness. That awareness, again, is going to reach back and go talk and knock on accountability's door, because it's, hey, how bad do I really want this change? How bad do I really want to prove? And you know what the funny thing is, at certain points, and I don't know if this works the same for women. Hopefully there's one of the ladies watching somewhere and they can come and chime in on this. I would love to hear it. But I really believe that, as for a man, especially young men, the faster they can get this kind of in their minds, is you have to be resolute to change. Change is not, it's not like you just get up and okay, I'm gonna go change my clothes, or I'm gonna go change my Jordans and go get a new pair of Jordans, or get, no, man. Change can be, and I want to use these definitive terms, or these extreme terms. Change could be the necessary outcome to life or death. I honestly believe that. I would not tell anybody that should be the law for their life, but I honestly believe that, only because I've seen it. Again, 2008. Okay, so I'm homeless, running with these guys. We're running in our little gang and we're doing our little things. And, in some way, shape, or form, because I've never been the tough guy. I've never been the rah, go shoot 'em up guy. That's not me. Not at all. I'm just not that guy. I'm not the Rottweiler. I'm one of the other pretty dogs. I'm not a Chihuahua, but I'm one of the other pretty dogs. And by de facto, I become the honcho. One day I wake up, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and we go out to the back of the compound where we were kind of all residing at. And and anybody can challenge me on this. I'm open to explain it in a different conversation or a different space and time. But I literally hear God tell me to get up and get these guys here and speak to them, and you guys got to leave today. I was like, what? I started looking around. I'm like, no, man, I'm tripping. Maybe I shouldn't have went drinking with these guys last night. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. I'm like, no, man. Drops into my spirit again, heavy. No, you guys got to get out of here today. I'm sitting in, you got to like, this is the most contrasting situation ever, because now the leader of the gang is in the back of the compound reading the Bible. trying to level out my mind right now between what I've felt in my spirit, where I am, and what this command is now that just doesn't affect me, but it affects the guys that are so quote unquote running with me. Sitting there, I'm reading. One of the guys comes, yo, Ty, what's good, man? What are you doing, Ty? I'm reading the Bible. What you reading the Bible for? I'm like, is there a problem with that? That's the only good thing that came out of being the Tacho, because you could look around and ask those questions and shut down a whole line of questioning. He said, no, brother, you cool? It's all, everything's okay. He said, you good though? So yeah, I'm good. Tell everybody to be here at 5:00. Now there were 11 of us in this little gang, right? We have our little turf. So we get together at 5, and I said, guys, I don't know how to say this to you, but God spoke to me this morning and told us all to go home. So much so that if we don't leave here, we might not live. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at these guys, and they're looking at me like, dude, like you got to come with something harder than that. So I'm like, oh God, I'm like, I ain't got no words to tell these guys. God, how you gonna give me this message and drop this in my heart? And I'm supposed to convince. I'm like, he's a killer. He just got released out of jail. He can steal dirt from a cockroach. And I was like, no. These guys all got skills. I said, guys, what are we doing here? I'm like, you could sell dirt to a cockroach. I'm like, you're telling me you can't go take a college course and go sell some real estate property? I'm like, you can reprogram a cell phone on a closed library network. That's technically not supposed to be possible for somebody without a college or university education, but yet still you can do it. I'm like, you're great with your hands. Why are you in construction? Why aren't you a foreman somewhere? I'm like, all of us, God is trying to get our attention. I said, if we don't leave this here, we just flat out, I'm telling you guys, this is just what's in my heart. We're not gonna make it. Two of them out of all of us, there was 5 of us that said, okay, yeah, we out. We're gonna pack our stuff up and we're gonna leave. The other 3 guys, which would have made 8, they kind of debated on it, and I had to come back and talk to them and just say, like, what are you afraid of? And they were truly, they admitted that they did their family wrong, and they weren't sure if their family was going to forgive them. I was like, no, just call them. They would rather see you and know that you're fine than to hold animosity for what you did out of the ignorance of your youth. And yes, you're ignorant. You're going to have to admit that. You're going to have to accept it because that's what you did. The other 2, nah, man, we was made for this life. Or the other 3, nah, man, we was made for this life. I'm gang till I die. All right. I can't tell you what to do. I'm just telling you what's laid on my heart. The next day, we all said our piece. We all said, you know what? If I see you where I see you in the better side of life, cool. We left. 8 of us left. 3 of them stayed back. Out of that 3, 2 of them ended up going around on the run across Canada. One, only God knows where he is. The other one got killed. And one is a question mark. I mean, but the other guys, the guy that I said could become a real estate agent, he did become a real estate agent. He was the youngest guy out of the whole group. Other guys went back home to their families, went back home to the mother of their children, repaired their lives, got married, became husbands, became the fathers that they could be. And so when I look at what we're talking about, accountability, awareness, resilience, discipline, I specifically recall these moments in my life because had I not been resolute to want to change my own individual life, when I was saying I wanted to change for me, I wasn't thinking of them. I was just tired of being here because it came with certain stresses that I just knew wasn't for me. And out of the discipline and the accountability to see that change through, I'm not happy that the other 3 guys, I don't know, one of them died. The other 2, I'm not really sure how it ended. I'm not happy that they didn't make it out. But we were all given the same opportunity that day and that time and that moment. And when I look and I see the majority of the field actually made it out and they're doing monumentally better for themselves, I'm like, yeah, this is, and I keep these stories alive in my soul and alive in my heart because and this is where my wife, she's like, oh, you're not that person anymore. I'm like, yes, but somebody somewhere needs to hear that if I can just be disciplined and accountable to myself to change my life, and 6, 7 other guys can come with me, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. And when we talk about building communities and building brotherhoods and fellowship and friendships and partnerships and all this stuff, like Paulo said, I'm giving you my word that, yeah, it's funny, like, think about how the 4 of us, Truth, so, remind me to message Truth, man, because I told this man not to be sleeping, calling him out. I know he's busy, but yeah, like, look at the 4, like, I remember speaking the Truth, and there's times, and he's, brother, can you do this? Brother, can you do? I'm like, bro, you ain't got to ask me, because what your vision has aligned with what my personal vision was. I was just trying to seek and find the right people at the right time to connect with. So I've already become resolved that if I was fortunate to find even one brother that I could work with, then yeah, my word is my bond, and my bond is my word. And I'm not gonna put you in a position where, hey, you could call me and say, hey, could you FedEx me a feather? Okay, I got you. As light as it is, that's how resolute I am in this. And it's really that's why I said, for me, it's discipline to accountability that breeds resilience. And yeah, we all have it from different perspectives, but man, like, all 3 of those are necessary, and they help to kind of bring individuals' minds to the place where they can even realize some of the intangible skill sets they have. Like, what we're doing, we're not no big names, but this is an intangible skill set to somebody. Somebody wishes they were one of us 3 right now. That's the thing that really, it excites me to having these conversations and meeting guys like yourself. And so I want to throw, before I ask you guys this question, because I know I went on, but I had to share that.
No, that's a dope story. Just real quick, I think we need to slap awareness on that list. But what Apollo was saying, as far as, like, because he had it packed. I say in the beginning, where they all need to kind of happen in line, because it's funny, like, even though I have my path, and like we all kind of mentioned, it's just like I think they do kind of happen, what path you kind of take and stuff, how you're gonna be able to receive, like those values and standards and stuff. But the good thing is, like, by like Paulo and them coming up with it, and now we're like communicating it to other people. It's just like, man, it could save somebody so much time, or like what you were saying, Conrad, hardships, because, like, just even thinking back on my path, man, it was way harder than what it needed to be. If somebody would have kind of broke this stuff down to me earlier, and I would have been aware of these, like, different elements that I should be focused on, oh man, you know how much life would have been easier. Like, so I think it is important that we're having these conversations, and like, whoever watches it and is willing to take the information, is just like, man, your life could be so much easier. You don't have to deal with so much, like, what people say, trauma and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If you just like focus on this stuff and kind of avoid some of that other stuff, man, your life could be so streamlined. So I think it is good that we're like bringing this stuff, to the masses, whatever. Sorry about that, Conrad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Go, hey, bro. We cooking. Paulo, jump in now, man.
Yeah. So about 2 years ago, this is when Will and I was sort of in the early stages talking to each other. He had a platform, and I sort of jumped on. One of my biggest frustration with the space in general, in terms of podcasts, was that people threw terms loosely around, but they didn't define the words. So things like values, things like standards, things like principles. And my frustration came from this idea of those things shouldn't be subjective to the degree that people are trying to articulate them to be. I think standards should be objective in the sense of what are they and where can we recognize those things being consistent, all things considered. So the reason why we sort of ended up with accountability, resilience, and discipline is that when we look outwardly into the world and we look at great models of what great men are, they show signs of these three aspects playing a very, interesting dynamic in the ways that they practice. So I call it the art because it's just a play on word, the art of man. But what it does for a generation who grows up with information and verbal comms is that it gives them, at least for what Dirk was saying, is that it gives you at least something measurable. Accountability is now clear. Discipline's now clear. Resilience now clear. We further aid that with principles. Values alone aren't tangible enough. You have to pair them with a sets of principles. And I look at it as values is sort of like the infinity stones. Your principles like the glove. The infinity stones on their own is sort of powerful in itself, but when you have the glove, the gauntlet, the infinity gauntlet, it puts those into a much more powerful state. So if anyone's into Marvel and these nerdy shit, that is the way that I'm trying to put a sort of visual to it.
Yeah.
That's a good example, man.
Yeah, value system on its own is great, and we can talk about it, but there needs to be at least some guiding principles to it. And what those guiding principles allows you to do is that you can understand your value a lot more. So as my earlier example is, my value are those threes. What are my principles? I have two of them that I really follow relentlessly and consistently, which is if you start something, finish it. Very simple, very tangible. And if you're not going to give it your all, you might as well not start it at all. Those two principles alone encompasses the three that we've been talking about for the last hour. And those are great to give to young men in the sense of, if you don't know anything else, at least endeavor to practice those two. And that's how we've ended with the three tenets.
I think it's dope, man. Honestly, because even the resilience one, man. Like I said, I definitely focus on. I understood accountability and discipline, just because like going through the military and some of the paths I took. But resilience, it just, like I said, it never stuck out to that till like you guys start breaking it down. And I'm 44, so I'm like, damn, like I wish I would have had some of this stuff when I was like earlier broken down. So yeah, no, I think it's dope that you guys came up with that like blueprint, that foundation. And then, like I said today, talking to Conrad, it's like I'm taking notes and stuff. I'm like, awareness, yeah, that needs to go on there. So building on that foundation.
Yeah, it's funny, as we're speaking, I just found out what happened to the Facebook video. Man,
Facebook messing with you over there, huh?
I mean, I understand it because I understand the business. Long story short, Sony might have a song. I might have to change my entrance song. Lucky I'm a musician.
Oh, okay.
Skill set. I'm good. I'm good. It's okay. I won't be mad. To anybody who's watching, we are going to repost this video wherever. I'll just change the other song, an opening song before. Yeah, again, okay, it's funny. My grandmother, when I was about, 6, I started playing the drums. 7, when I started playing the piano for our church. I was just wanted to just rush and just be like, okay, like the church needs a piano. It's like, I just got to learn. I just want to learn how to play the songs, and I don't want to learn anything else. And I was really just struggling with the discipline of practicing and learning. I was just like, man, like, I don't want to go through all this else. Just teach me the song so I can play. My grandmother started taking piano lessons to encourage me. She never played a song. She never did a recital. She never, none of that. She literally just said, okay, hopefully if he sees me doing this, um, it'll prompt him to go and do it. I mean, it did. Like, I buckled down in that practice. I was like, nah, you can't be the one practicing. I'm supposed to be the one going to practice. But yeah, so I'm not thank you, Facebook, for the late message as to where our video went. And now I know better. I'm gonna have to change that song. And that's good. That's all right. That's all right. I ain't got a problem with that. That is completely all right. It's okay. Cool. I'm gonna lean on the other skill set I got. I'm good.
Build it back. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, and build it back, brother. That's exactly what it is. You guys mentioned something. Both of you mentioned something. I think it's gonna, as I wrote it down, I think I had it in the form of a question. Yes. But I want to play, and I'm hoping that it goes right. I want to play this video from Kevin Samuels. Rest in power. I'm telling you, that man, he became the unknown uncle of my life to the degree where my wife literally, she was like, "Are you serious? Are you serious?" He's like, I was like, "No, babe, you got to understand this. I'm not, it's not about dealing with the women. It's about being more of a man for you, for me, for the kids. But it's more of being a man." Like, she couldn't understand it for a hot minute until after he passed, and then I really let her watch a video. She was like, "Oh, I see. He was really belting you guys." I was like, "Yeah. Imagine you're on your way home driving and you're listening to some Kevin Samuels and you're just trying to listen for entertainment. And then he tells you that you think you're a man, stop chasing the women and actually go out there and become a man." I'm gonna play. I'm gonna share this. Share my screen. Hopefully this works properly. I'm hoping it works properly. There we go. Okay. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to.
You've never held full-time employment. So how do you go from not having full-time employment to entrepreneur? There's no free money. There's no get rich quick. You need to go to McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Popeyes, Burger King, Big Lots, Kroger. You need to go pick up whatever job you can to work. Grab your balls and become a man. You got to get your own place, dude. Turn off YouTube. Get in the world. Because you can't. Okay, dude. No. You're still trying to think of ways to not do it. You want to do it. You don't want to get your hands dirty. That's what it is with a lot of you young guys. You don't want to get your hands dirty. That's hard. That sounds like work. So should I do it this way? No, you should get your ass up tomorrow and go get a job. Because you're on the channel of an image consultant, right?
Yep.
I talk about men trying to become the best version of themselves, get themselves into the top 10% of men. And dude, you haven't even got into manhood yet. Your mother needs to put you out. You're a physically healthy 25-year-old man living in your mama house. So to tell me you don't have a girlfriend because you're focusing on your purpose, that's some YouTube bullshit. You need to get out of your mother's house and go to work. You need to be gone by November.
So even graduate school.
How many hours were you working at this company?
Maybe I'll say 36, depending on the other job as well, because I was working both of them at the same time.
So you haven't even had a full-time job. You've never held full-time employment. So how do you go from not having full-time employment to entrepreneur? There's no free money. There's no get rich quick. You need to go to McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Popeyes, Burger King, Big Lots, Kroger. You need to go pick up whatever job you can to work. Grab your balls and become a man. You got to get your own place, dude. Turn off YouTube. Get in the world. Because you can't. Okay, dude. No. You're still trying to think of ways to not do it. You want to do it. You don't want to get your hands dirty. That's what it is with a lot of you young guys. You don't want to get your hands dirty. That's hard. That sounds like work. So should I do it this way? No, you should get your ass up tomorrow and go get a job. Because you're on the channel of an image consultant, right?
Yep.
I talk about men trying to become the best version of themselves, get themselves into the top 10% of men. And dude, you haven't even got into man.
Great club.
Yeah, he was kind of spot on though. I mean,
I'm not gonna lie. Oh man, that
Conrad,
belt
that wasn't
whipping
you. He
was
was cussing out, was it?
no man, no, that wasn't me. That was me. Man, I tell you, I'll be honest. I didn't laugh when I came across this clip as I was kind of preparing, you know, just my thoughts and my notes, and I was like, I wasn't looking for this. I was just scrolling through Instagram and I was trying to just clean up some things. And I have actually a part where it does say material, like where I save everything to. And I came across this video and it actually just started shouting at me. I came in where it was like, dude, you're 25 years old. Your mom needs to kick you out. I was like, pardon? And like, I got kind of a little bit triggered, even though I've been out of my mom's house for a long time. So I just went back and just watched it from the beginning. I was like, yeah, he right. And that actually, like I said, this leads me to something that I kind of wanted to ask you guys. And I mean, the way I'm gonna ask this question, it's gonna sound weird. And I'm the more I look at it, is the more I actually want it to sound weird. And there's a reason why, and I'll kind of explain my thought process behind it. But uh, at what age do you think a young man should be told the real truth about how life works? Finances, women, building himself up, etc. At what age do you think a young man should be told the truth about how life works?
Hmm. Who you want to go first on that? You got a particular order?
I'll come back in after you guys go. So whoever wants to take it first.
Man, I'll say 10. You know, I was about to go a little earlier than that, but man, I think earlier. It's funny, man, because me and my wife we were just walking and we went downtown and stuff, and I was like, "Hey, man, we gotta hurry up and get back," because I wanted to make sure I jumped on the live. But I was just telling her something along the lines. I'm like, man, we all know the concept of certain things, but I just think, man, now that we're more civilized, man, we just got away from like teaching people things at an early age because we're just like, oh, let them be kids and stuff. Where it's just like they could be kids, but you should be giving them the knowledge. And like you're saying, Conrad, it's like you teach them all this stuff earlier. Maybe you don't give them the full brunt of it, but you give them you start introducing it earlier and build up on that to the point where it's just like they have these understandings when they start getting into like junior high and high school, man. It's probably a foundation, embedded in them. But I just think so many parents are like, nah, just let them be kids. And it's almost to a point where we're becoming naive to this stuff. And that's why, like, even when you listen to like Red Pill and stuff, since a lot of the guys didn't have the awareness and understanding, like I would be listening. It's like, hey, I was a former simp. I did this and this. And it's kind of because like somebody didn't sat them down. I was lucky where I just grew up with like older dudes that like I said, I was willing to like listen to them and, humble myself where I was getting that game from them, like, and the understanding and stuff. So, I caught on pretty quick. So yeah, I think you got to start off early. I'll say about 10 and maybe, honestly, probably 8, but I'll just say 10 for right now.
What do you think, Paulo?
Yeah, so my mother passed when I was 6 years old, and when she did, so did my childhood, right? So when I look and gauge, personally for me, I speed run my young adult life through my teenage years. I think this is very similar to your story, Jake. I started hanging around with the cousins who were 4-6 years older than me. And I started taking up their vernaculars, their cadence, the way that they moved. And I sort of adopted a lot of these things, but not only that, the knowledge that they had. Whether it was good info or bad info, I adopted a lot of those things. So now that I have a son and a daughter, when I look at them and I engage them, I think it's we oftentimes forget that our children are going to be adults. And
Mhm.
having this glass-eyed outlook on let them be children is sort of Peter Panning our children in a sense. I look at my kids like a seed. They're a season for different things. You know, you can't treat a tree as a seed all its entirety. That's undutiful and being uncareful to the responsibility that you have. For my son, and I think this is subjective in the sense of to my own children, there is an age range, I agree, between the age of 8 and 10. For my son, he's a little bit slower than my daughter. So in that sense, then it's more important for me to try and develop those habits at an earlier age. So we started at 6 and 7. Started giving him little responsibility, started giving him conversations, not to the entirety of explaining to him this is how life is, but it's a progress in terms of give him piece by piece. Allow him to understand the first piece of the puzzle prior to moving on to the next one.
Mhm.
Pardon me. So one of the initial things that I taught him was just, all it was 2 phrases. And it was framed in a question. What are we? Or who are we? And he replied back, we're men. And what do? We protect and we provide. As simple as that might sound, that trains him to recognize those things. And I take this from my father. So my father taught me English without me even understanding what the heck the English language was. He gave me English books and he gave me a dictionary. And he said, go learn to read this book or these books. Here's the Tongan to English dictionary. Translate as you read. Didn't understand it. And at a later stage, although he didn't communicate this through to me, what I sort of picked up was give the puzzle pieces even if you don't know how the vision goes or what the entirety of the outcome is. One day it'll start making sense. But as what's more important, and you already touched on this, is the skill set. Develop the skill set, even though you might not understand why. So that's the same thing with my son. We're now at a stage where I'm giving him one of my core principles. We start it, we finish it. If we're not going to give it our all, we don't start it at all. And these are phrases that I keep around him so that he repeats it to himself. When there are times with, like his games, we put him through sports. Currently it's softball season. It's a softer version of your baseball. We're a little bit soft when it comes to American sport. But when he has a bad game, he has a tendency to just give up and do whatever. And what I do is I symbolize. So every time I give him a repetition of I started, I finish it, I put my hand on my heart to at least show the significance of I started, I finish it. Mm-hmm. And every time we're in the game, I put my hand to my heart. And he recognized that signal and he starts repeating it to himself. And you can see in real life how that simple reminder changes the course of his action for the entirety of a game. Mm-hmm. So I think we have to understand our children. There's definitely an age range where the average falls on. But as fathers, this is why I revere good fathers and great men, is that this is our responsibility, is that we recognize these things and we develop our children to be adults. And one of those things is not only the teaching methods that we put on our children, but at least be the model for your children. I cannot teach my son anything effective if I myself don't follow these things. My commitment was to his mother. Therefore, the responsibilities of taking on a family is on me. I get up every morning and I go to work. I come home and I dedicate my time to my children and to her. So these things are very important, but for me, what's even more important is that we become the model of what they should draw a reference from. So they might not have answered the question per se, but I think the age range of 8 and 10 falls to a vast majority of kids, especially young men, in the sense of start developing that knowledge base.
Yeah. No, I solemnly agree with both of you. I think there's stages in which you give them, I would call them milestone markers of knowledge and routine, along with foundational knowledge and things that they can glean on in the moment. I've uh, I've I'd say one of the greatest things that or experiences I've ever had was when I started coaching novice basketball. So that's ages 7 through 11. And
Oh, okay.
one of the things that I was told from the head coach, he's like, you're going to be the assistant coach, you're going to be running the practices. And I mean, all I heard in my head was coach. I was like, oh, I'm game for this. And so I get to the first practice. And so I talked to the parents first. I said, how many of your kids come home and they're elitely rambunctious and just off the walls? Most of the parents put up their hand. I said, well, after today, that is not going to happen when they come to practice. I'm going to run them into the ground. I'm going to run them into the ground intellectually, and then I'm going to run them into the ground in their body. And you will see this translate to when we start to play games. And so by the second practice, the parents were like, no, I don't think this is what they should be doing their kids. I turned around to the parents. I said, look, they go to school and they run all day. Some of your kids run the teacher out of the classroom. We don't want to hear it, but we got to deal with it. So it's better I run them into the ground for you, and then you can take them home, bathe them, put them to sleep, get them their dinner. If that's where they are, get them to sleep. I was not told that these kids through 7 and 11 are also not to be taught NBA plays and college and university plays. So I'm looking at these children as if they're an extension of myself, which is I always wanted to have a coach who would teach me how to model my favorite player, or just guide me how to model my favorite player was Michael Jordan growing up. It became LeBron James after a while, Kobe, AI, whatever. And again, one of my personal favorite movies was Coach Carter. So with all this in my mind now, when I saw these kids, I said, I'm going to work out of you the kidship, and I'm going to work you into professionalism. And nobody's going to know it but me, but your parents will see it. So I actually brought in guys who were my age as we would run these practices. And, as I took them through the fundamentals, I said, when we got to a certain level, I said, guys, we are going to now start running scrimmages. I've taught you guys how to stretch. We've gone through the fundamentals, but now we're going to play. So I'm like, yeah, because it's been like 3 weeks and they have not shot a basketball or done their favorite Steph Curry or anything. So I said, here's the problem, though. I'm going to be playing and coaching the scrimmage. Split the young guys up, split the big guys up, where all teams are even. So I said, when you inbounds, I'm like, you kids, I want you to run the 3-man weave. And I want you to, whoever's a point guard, outlet, I want you guys talking. Certain play happens, and some of the kids are, they're doing kid stuff. They're standing at the line. Pass me the ball, hands in the air. I say to them, blow my whistle. I said, everybody stop. I said, somebody tell me, what does Kobe Bryant do on the court? Everybody was quiet. I said, tell me, what does LeBron or Michael Jordan do on the court? Carmelo Anthony, whoever your favorite players, do you see them on the court jumping up and down, waving their hands, saying, pass me the ball? Everybody said no. I said, perfect. Now that we can all agree on that, what are they doing? Somebody said, they're playing offense, they're playing defense. I said, okay, great. Let's stick to offense. What is the team doing? Does Kobe Bryant talk to his teammates to tell them where they need to be if they're not in the right place? Yes. Okay, so then you need to be looking out while you're dribbling. You need to be looking out for your team. You need to talk to them. You need to communicate. You need to make sure that you are, blessings to you. Sorry, guys. I'm going to interject because Tiffany, salute to you. Tony Golden, salute to you. Salute to everybody that has come through. I love you all. We love you all. Thank you for coming through. We're talking about men of standards. And are we undervalued? Is a man of standard undervalued? Is he overvalued? Is he non-existent? What have you? So to sum this up, after we talked about that, and these guys were like, no, Michael, when he's on the court, he talks to his team, he's moving, he's playing defense, he's not just standing in one place. I said, I don't want to see none of you guys do that. And I'm like, all of you guys, if you're going to be great, if you're ever going to try and make it to the NBA, you have to do what Michael did. Michael does not stand in a place. Kobe does not stand in a place and just say, pass me the ball. You need to get up and you need to think the game. This is how we think the game. So we move on. They do it great. I move them on to, it's just regular pro level, university level defense. It's a trap defense. Phil Jackson uses this. This is how they won their championships. This is how, Greg Popovich would coach you. So I'm going to teach you the same thing. Nobody told me that they're not allowed to learn these plays. So we go away for a tournament now. We're getting our butts kicked through the second quarter, team down. I said, guys, what did we do in practice? Run defense. Okay, get back in the game. Stop flopping, stop falling down, stand strong. Remember that you're just as good as these guys. You deserve to be here, and you're better than them. Go and show yourself that you're better than them. So we start taking control of the game now. I'm just sitting there, I'm giggling. I'm so happy at these kids. They call an out of bounds play. I said, hey, run the trap defense on the out of bounds, that triangle trap right there. They run it. The referee blows the whistle. He goes, Coach, did they just run a professional style, an NBA level play? I said, yeah, there's a trap defense at the corner. You like it, don't you? And I'm sitting there gloating up myself. I'm like, yeah, man, I did that. I'm the coach. I got them to that level. He goes, oh, they're not allowed to learn that. I said who? He said, they're too young. I said, so what are they doing this for? I'm like, why are they here playing? Are we just here to enjoy ourselves and drive how much 100 miles from our houses and pay how much hundreds of dollars for these kids to just not learn anything? We just want to see them come out and sweat up the place, and I don't want to say waste money, but yeah, waste money. I'm like, are you serious right now? I was so upset. They're like, Coach, what are we going to do? I said, just crush them. Crush the team. Crush the team, crush the coach, crush everybody. I'm like, we're going to win this game, and we're going to jump and do our dance in the middle. I was like, we're going to shake hands. But I was so upset because here is a grown adult who knows what I've taught them is the correct way to play basketball. It is the correct way to win. Skill set will get you to the door. You have to have a working mind that can think through situations, that can think through times when you feel like you're not as good as somebody else. I've even used this same analogy to get past racism in Canada. Now, I mean, and I'll just say this, to my luck, in Canada, everybody's passive racist. So they've got their racism, but it's like nice racism, if that makes any sense. It's like, oh, hey, how you doing? Or they let you know that they don't like you and they shun you, but they'll still hold the door open for you. So I remember a long time ago, I was thinking there and I was like, man, I want to get this job, but I don't know if I have the qualifications, or maybe because they're going to see me and a tall black guy, they're not going to want me, and the whole office is. I said, you know what? Let me see how the other guys do it. Let me see how the other guys get into this establishment, into this company. Let me go fix up my resume, get myself together. I'm good. I know I got the skills. I got the intellect. I'm good. So let me. And I said, oh, okay. Oh, that's how you connected with them. So you didn't show up for the interview. You showed up to have a conversation and got an interview. Oh, okay, I see you. I got you. So I went home. Next day, come back. Oh, are you here for the interview? No, I'm just here to talk to the manager. Manager available? I have my resume with me, but manager available? Yeah. I'll get the manager for you. Manager, hey, how you doing? My name is, I'm Conrad. How are you doing? I'm good, Conrad. What brings you by? Yeah, I've been passing by this establishment for a while. I know the company's been here for the last 4 or 5 years, been serving the community. In this field. And I was like, uh, how's the job search going? Well, yeah, it's Conrad, it's going good, but right as you know how it is. You're looking for a manager at this level. Yeah, I know. Conrad, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do? Oh, I'm a manager. Oh, really? Are you looking for a better opportunity? I mean, like, where are you a manager at? Oh, I'm here. Oh, for real? Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, that's you. Yeah. Hey, why don't you come skip the job process, skip the application process? Come have a conversation with me tomorrow. I think I want to know more about you. I saw guys who were less qualified than me use that same tactic to get ahead of me. And if racism was my barrier, they, through their actions, showed me how to beat them at their own game without having to address whatever tendencies they had, like or dislike. So when I look back on my individual life, when I look back on certain moments like coaching these kids, when I look back at even our sons and our individual families, this is why I asked this question. Because now when we go back to the nucleus of this, which is literally what age do we start to tell them this? Okay, we start the grooming. And the one thing, this is the reason why I asked this question, because, you know, let's say 6 through 10 or 6 through 12, we have a really good footing on how we're going to influence our children, how we're especially fathers to sons, right? But it's like, and this is what is kind of anecdotally painted to me. It's that once they hit 12 through 16, nobody has a roadmap. It's like, and this again, this is just my anecdotal experience where it's like there's this backup, and everybody's hands is in the air, and I'm like, no. This is the time when we need you the most, because we're getting ready for high school, and we're getting ready for junior high and whatnot, and wherever we are in the schooling system. And truth be told, for the majority of kids who are not that in person socially, they are afraid. And so we've got to turn around at that age and say, how can I ground you so you can actually be resolute in who you already are, knowing that this is just a preparation stage for who you're going to become. And the reason why I said that is because even with my stepdaughter, I just call her my daughter, because being a stepfather, yeah, it is what it is. Those who follow, um, she asked me a couple years back, and it was a tax time, and she said to me, um, she wanted some certain things for her birthday and whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. I got to see what the money situation like after tax time, and then as what we plan for this next quarter. And she said, why would you plan for the next quarter? I'm like, because I'm like, the house will actually dictate to me how I'm going to be able to answer your request and give you what you want. It's your birthday. I don't want to not give you what you want, but I've got to make sure there's balances and checks all over the place. And no, I'm not going to tell you how exactly I'm going to do it, but this is why I have to do what I'm about to do. And she said, so what does that look like over the course of the year? Now, this is where parent wise, I was like, now I've got you thinking about the bigger picture. I don't require you to crunch taxes. I don't require you to pay the bills. You're not required to do these things, but I want you to start thinking about that. And I really do solemnly believe for both of our sons and our daughters that we have to get them, we have to remember, and I want to encourage parents, single parents, whoever you are, you're watching this. don't be afraid of having those conversations and giving them little tidbits at certain times to be able to get them thinking, because the adverse is that the influences that are outside of your house are to get them to kind of shut down from thinking at that level. It's even I had a conversation with my wife, I think it was last year. My son's about to be 3 this year, so yeah, and a year and a half ago. And we were kind of disagreeing on something, and it was the aspect of chores and taking on bigger responsibilities. And I said, look, as these kids grow, I, as a husband, as a father, I have a certain amount of time now that I have to prepare for their next stage of influence, because I don't want them to grow up and catch me behind the ball. And I'm like, it's not that we're not doing this together, we are, but there's a certain level of influence that has to come from me as a father, and I need to be ready to give it at that time. And in the Jamaican, in West Indian culture, we're very do as you're told, don't ask me no questions. Children are to be seen and silent. Okay, yes, there's rules, there's decorum, but that is not going to make you balanced. It's gonna, in some cases, it can make you feel fearful, but it's not gonna balance you out. I want you to be balanced. I want you to have enough understanding of when to be disciplined, when to speak, when not, when to pull back. But at the same time, I want you to be prepared. I want you to be concrete in what I'm going to give you.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask you, Conrad, when you were coaching, did a lot of the parents kind of give you pushback as far as, your approach, like kind of get it away of the kids' growth, you think?
Oh, well, yeah. And I had to separate the parents from the kids at one point, and not necessarily to stop them from coming to practice. But my direct and because I like to conversate, naturally I just said, okay, I would do the same thing at work with the team. If I have to reprimand or talk to somebody about something, I'm going to pull them away from the floor. So I pulled the parents away, and I said, give me all your questions, give me all your comments, give me all your concerns. And they threw everything at me. And it was, in some cases, it was demoralizing, because they were basically telling me that, one mother, she was like, yo, I'm going to report you, and I'm going to get you taken off because you shouldn't be coaching. These are kids. They're not professionals, and they're not this. And I said, so why are you guys spending money? If they're not professionals, they're just kids. You could get 2 basketball hoops, put them in front of your house, and have them run up and down the whole parking lot until they're tired. Why are you spending $200 to $300 if you have no ambition for your kids to become something more than just enjoying themselves? There's a lot that they can learn through this: discipline, teamwork, self-control, how to balance their emotions. And
Yeah,
so
it's
when I
almost in
started
a way
doing,
like the parents handicap the kids and stuff to a certain degree.
oh yeah. And when I was able to kind of make the parents think on that level, I said, which one of you kids, who wants their kids to go? And I literally took this line from Coach Carter. So I was like, who wants their kids to go to college and university? All the parents put up their hands. I said, okay, who has $100,000 saved up right now for their kids? They don't gotta worry about clothes, they don't gotta worry about a car, they don't gotta worry about where they're gonna stay, whether it's on campus or at home. Their whole tuition and everything, books, everything is sports, medicine, everything is paid for. You got it. You got $100,000 in the bank right now. No parent raised their hand. I said, basketball or athletics is a tool to get them where you would hope to see them one day. I'm trying to prepare your kids for that now. That's why I'm here.
Mhm.
When I said that to them, all the parents started buying in. And I told
Yeah,
I
it's
showed
sad
them. I
that
said,
you had to do all that, just to get their attention. Hey, Conrad, let me ask you guys a quick question, just
go ahead.
based on what we were, because it just kind of popped up when we were talking when you asked that question about the when should we, kind of give kids that knowledge,
Mhm.
based on our like principles and standards and stuff like that, because that's what we kind of represent. That's why we like here together. Do you think like parents that don't like fathers are that don't resemble like our I say traits, our characteristics? Do you think those kids that come under like those fathers are kind of at a disadvantage?
Paulo, I'll
And
let
it's
you go.
either
Repeat that again, Jake.
well, it's just like like since we have like this understanding and we have like these like principles that we kind of like are guided by. But there are a lot of I'll say like people out there that don't kind of like follow those standards and principles. Do you think like their kids are kind of at a disadvantage? Are they putting their kids at a disadvantage?
Absolutely. I have this conversation with a lot of the men, especially young fathers. And one of the things that I try and get them to understand is that most of us, our influences on our children is far beyond the moment of conception. It's actually what we do. So, in behavioral science, and I think in genetics too, is that children are predisposed to the experiences and the habits of their parents. And not only that, there's a long line of hereditary genetic markers that gets passed down.
Mm-hmm.
And the debate between nurture and nature is sort of a culmination of these two things. So in that sense, if you're a man who don't follow at least a specific sets of standards or values, this is what you ingrain into your genetics. And when you finally conceive children, you sort of pass these things on. And depending on the environment that you bring those kids around, the dominant trait will have, while the environment will have an influence in making specific traits become dominant. So to your question, absolutely, children are disadvantaged if the father and the mother, they actually have equal standing, have a huge disadvantage because now they're predisposed to a lot of experiences that don't follow necessarily what we call standards and values. I think when I look at my father and having sort of analysis on my own personal traits, I see remnants of who he is as a man sort of being passed on to me. And when I take that to a broader sense, and when I look at my friends, good mates of mine, and I look at their fathers and their grandfathers, I see essence of those traits in all of the men that has ended up being a result of those things. So yes, absolutely, children are disadvantaged, and this is why the whole idea of modeling what good relationship building is, what good communication is, what these good traits are, which are all built on the tenets that we have sort of agreed on. This is why it's important in the sense of that we must seek and endeavor to always practice these things and at least start on the tangible things first. And we've gone back and forth in trying to sort of break down which should be priority, and I think we've come to the consensus that whichever one that you're at and you make the realization that you need additional things to supplement whatever that trait is, I hope I'm not long-winded in that answer, Joke, but definitely they're disadvantaged. Now that doesn't say that that is the outcome of their life, but at a first glance they are at a huge disadvantage if their fathers or their parents are not men of principles or men of standards.
That was a great answer, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. The aspect of being disadvantaged, which is I said it on, and if I can find it, I'll actually clip it and post it within the next couple of days. The aspect of the disadvantaged is a span of time. And I say that because, I mean, technically, the most disadvantage won't really happen in the early adolescence. And when I say early adolescence, I mean like, let's say 5 through maybe 10 or 11. It's really gonna really, I believe, manifest at a stronger degree 11 and up, 12 and up. Um, and so we can, I would say that we can actually see that as when they get into now their early teens, and we and other outside, eyes and viewpoints or parents or people can see to what degree that individual or that kid or preteen is going to be disadvantaged in what areas. And I'm kind of speaking more from a self-evaluation standpoint. Me not having a father in my home was one thing that kind of, it hurt me emotionally. But then having an unbalanced approach to life where it was all about make sure home looks good and we're not going to worry about how your everyday outside of home life is, well, it gave me a false narrative that I had to work myself out of. And from the age of, or say grade 9, so what would be junior high in the States, from grade 9 or 6, 15, really, I didn't have an ambition to work. Because when I got to grade 9 and I was inquisitive of my peers to say, okay, we all walk home together. How come you guys are able to stop and buy cupcakes and go to this store and buy this? And I'm not saying that I'm not grateful for the times when you guys spend some of your money on me, but I'd like to buy my own stuff. And one of my boys said, oh yeah, we got a job at the mattress store moving mattresses on the weekend. And we get basically $50, for a couple hours of work, $50 an hour for a couple hours. And if we do deliveries, we get $75 plus we get tips. So I was like, hold on a minute. In 2 days of work, you're potentially making $175 to $200. They were like, yeah. I was like, I could do that easily. I'm like, do they have any after school openings? Now I'm thinking, as a young teen, my brother me and him are 6 years apart. He can come home, lock the door. I did it. He can come home, lock the door. I'll be home with enough time to make sure I cook him dinner, and then we go to bed at the same time. On one hand, my mom, I could see where she was looking out for the household. She was looking out for my brother because she had me as a cushion. But when she stopped me from getting that job, it set in motion something that I had to work out of me, which was a lack of understanding that I have to be, especially as a man, having a job is not optional. It's not vocational. And we can say for adults, it's mandatory. I definitely say for our sons, it should be rudimentary. It should be foundational. It should be at the core, that when we get to a certain age, and this can, I mean, depending on the climate and the seasons and whatnot, whether it's cutting grass, shoveling, raking, understanding the sense of worth that comes from that. My grandfather, again, I lean on him because after he would rip trees out of the ground and fix back the grass and resod it and make everything look nice. Tiffany, don't worry, we're gonna get to your question. Don't worry, I see you. When he would build all that back, he would stand at the curb and look at it and shake his head in approval and smile. And he would utter the same words, I've got to try. Now, was he smiling when he was ripping the tree out of the ground? No. When he cut his hands? No. When he was tired and his back was a little sore? No. But when the job was complete, he smiled. Now, I want to draw this and make this clear as to what I'm saying. When I worked this out of me, like really had to reshape the landscape of my mind, I was already in my mid 20s. That's 9 years of being behind a mental barrier that all that had to happen was, yeah, go work the Friday night and the Saturday. It is something so simple, but to an adolescent mind, and you know, in these YouTube spaces, we talk about how women's minds mature faster than men's and the biological tendencies of that. And okay, so if we're going to talk about this, we're going to have to talk about it in its full context. If we are sitting there coddling our sons or coddling our children, both sons and daughters, to think that regardless of where they are, there's always going to be a cushion, and they do have an option in structuring their own life, even in their early teens. We're setting them up for failure. I had to ask full adults, what money do you have for your kids, for them to get for them to realize that what we're doing here, yes, we're running them into the ground. Yes, they're going to be tired. Yes, they're going to be sore. But guess what? When they get to high school and they're trying to go for their other AAU teams, and they're going to have a mental toughness. Their body is going to have a certain type of acumen that has already been built up. So now when they face adversity, let's say they get cut from the team. Well, now they're not ripping the list off the wall. It's just simple acts of decorum because we've worked that out of them. And you don't do it all at once. And this is the thing that I've had to learn in my own parentship. I'm not going to work this all out of my kids all at once, but I'm going, as Paulo said, and Sophisticated, you mentioned it earlier too. We give them this in doses along the way, so that when they do come across times that are adverse to them at their different levels of social acclimatization, they have an aspect of grounding, that they're able to think through the situation rather than just reacting to it. And to not give our kids a place, a time, a conversation, a word of encouragement, a word of direction before the storm comes. I don't mind facing storms, but you can't tell me that every storm has more ability to destroy than I have the power to evade it. I do not believe that. I do believe that if you can construct a plan early enough, if you can give me a blueprint, and we may have to tweak that plan 40 times, that's completely fine, but give me the plan. There's no way I should have been in a situation. And when I got older to have this conversation with my mom, I had to show her a lot of the things that we weren't able to develop in terms of a relationship, because now I was mad at playing catch up. So now mother-son in relationship is wrecked or is paused because I'm busy fixing what didn't need to be fixed had I been allowed to work at 15 and 16 Friday night and all day Saturday, or most of the day Saturday. These are the simple things that I believe we overlook in the training. When we say training of a kid, training of the adolescents, training of a young man, training of a young woman. Like you said, we don't need to give them everything all at once and just say, if you don't become this, it's, oh, you're nothing at all. No, I want to show you how to be something, and I want to show you how to enjoy being something. I don't want to, before I bring you guys back into this, Tiffany asked a question. She said, leading question, can we agree that identical kids raised the same can venture different paths?
Yes, because even identical twins don't receive the same treatment. It may seem when we analyze the average interaction, but they don't. So that's why they venture off in different paths. But if you look at a vast majority, of identical twins, they follow a very similar path, and that's due to proximity and interaction. So the fact that they grow up at the same time, they interacted with people at the same sort of proximity, typically means that they really align in similarities up until the point that they break off as adults and find relationship and whatnot. But yeah, I can't remember what the specific study was, but it's interesting because now it's making me think of it. I love to read studies, not for and I don't do it for this. I don't read studies in the sense of trying to use it as a way of justifying opinions. I think for me, I want to be excellent in the things that I do, and being a father is a call to me in the sense of this is now my role, and I should endeavor to be excellent in the things that I do. And if I'm a father, I should be aware of the things with the tools that are available to me now. We have great libraries of studies and great men and women who've done the academic work in order to shed some light into how we understand human development. And for me, is the more I get to learn about those things, the more equipped I am to deal with the unknowns that children present. Yeah, but I digress. Yeah, I agree. They tend to lead different lives at certain stages, but they're very similar up to the point that they break apart.
Yeah, when she answered that question, it's a great question. Tiffany's pretty deep, so shout out to Tiffany. But just going back to the question, man, it made me think of like these twins I knew growing up, you know, close friends of mine, and one of the brothers, you know, he kind of, you know, he hung out very cool, but he was like, nah, I'm gonna go to school route. And then the other brother was like caught up in the game, end up, you know, getting life in prison. So yeah, definitely that they had the same upbringing and everything. They just one fell to society pressures of like, you know, trying to be cool, trying to be the man and stuff, went that route. The other brother was like, nah, I'm staying away from that. Let me put my head in these books and, you know, got a great life now, family man and stuff. So yeah, just it's kind of, I never really thought about it like that till you posed that question, Tiffany, where it's just like I'm thinking about them. I'm like, wow, like same household, same parents and everything. But yeah, one just like I said, fell to the society pressures of like trying to be the man, and the other one was like, nah, I don't want no parts of that, and you know, it has a totally different outcome now. So wow, nah, appreciate that question. But hey,
No,
gentlemen, I gotta hop off. But hey, comrade, great conversation. Paulo, great conversation always, man. I hope we definitely start doing these more and more, man.
oh,
Love
trust me,
the conversation.
brother. You don't even know. I'll post it in the back end, but definitely thank you for coming through. It's not the last. It's only the first. Hopefully everybody's aware. We got a meeting. I guess it's Saturday morning. It's Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. So I guess
Okay,
follow for
definitely be
you.
there.
That's gonna be like what, Sunday morning for you, or Sunday night?
Tomorrow, is it? Tomorrow's show?
2 p.m. I don't know if it's a show. I think we're just doing like a quick meetup.
Yeah, it's Sunday evening for me.
Okay. All right. You know what?
Yeah, I gotta get used to Paulo's time and stuff. But all right, y'all take it easy, man. Have a good night or morning.
Yeah. Blessings to you
Appreciate
too,
you,
brother.
Jake.
All right, take it easy, guys. Bye.
All right, blessings. But yeah, you know, just to kind of follow up on that, it's the aspect of trying to, and not just trying, but making sure to find the resources necessary to be able to cultivate dare I say an expected end, and again allow for the best possible outcomes. I mean, I look at me and my brother, and in certain aspects and at certain times of both of our lives, our downfalls have mirrored um each other's, but then the resolve for the change was different. My brother actually got to a place where he was like, he didn't have that resolve for change. He was quite content. And I actually confronted him about it. And, his words to me, they shocked me. Not because he said it, but because there was no resolve there. And I knew what that was. Is the word that grandpa spoke to me, he didn't get that same access. And I mean, peradventure, I heard it a lot more in my adolescent years and in my early teen years from grandpa than I did in my 20s and 30s, early 30s. But he didn't get that in his early adolescence or in his teens, because it was a different structure at a different time. And so it was, on one hand, I did try my best to give him that, but it was a weird time, because it really would have been a teenager. It would have been like me taking him away from my mom, in a sense, just because of the way the life was structured at that time. And, he got to a point where he was like, he's like, I don't tell you to stop doing this, and I would never try to convince you. So you can't try to convince me to stop doing this. And immediately when he said that, my next phrase was going to be like, okay, but what if you die? And it was just something in front of me. It's something inside of me was just like, just hear him out. So when I heard him out, I said, if this is how you want to live, then I owe it to you to be very truthful with you as a brother. And I said to him, I said, I'm in a stage where I'm building off of ashes right now. And I'm trying to get to a place that I have not seen in our family. Nobody in our family owns companies. Nobody in our family is recognized by the government in terms of helping with massive infrastructure. Nobody, when it comes to marriage, we don't really have successful marriages in our family outside of grandma and grandpa. We don't have dual parent homes. We're borderline living paycheck to paycheck, and that's through our parents. I'm like, I'm aiming to change all that for my kids, and immediately for myself, because that's where I want to be. I don't know how hard it is going to be to get there, but that's where I want to be. And he said, all right, you do you. And we kind of went in our own paths. So much so that I had to warn my mom that if you do not get his attention as a mother when he comes back home, you are going to experience the worst sides of him, and I might not be able to help clean it up. Because at that point, you're not dealing with a teenager. You're not dealing with somebody who's seeking after mom or brothers or dad's love. You're dealing with a hardened man, and that is hard. That's a mountain that is almost unclimbable, at least not easily. And so, while I still do my best to make sure that, we do have open lines of communication, but he's decided to go his path, and I have to walk my path, and I'm resolute in that. Not to begrudge him, but I also had to let him know, as well as I've had to let other acquaintances and friends know. It's like, hey, like, my life has to walk a certain path. If I'm going to be a brother or a friend to you, then you got to understand I can't do that your way. It doesn't mean I'm dismissing you. I just can't do it your way. The friend you desire from me, the brother you desire from me, is going to take more than we may be understanding what it is actually we are requesting from the other person. And so, to go back to the aspect of Tiffany's question in terms of the even where the aspects here, she commented and she said, I'm trying to show it here. Different kids require different needs and demands, 100%. But it's easier to reach those different demands for those different kids when they're at the adolescent, preteen, early teens, even late teen stage. Once they've start hitting their 20s, mid 20s, 30s, if they decide that they're not willing to give us the time of day to listen, and I've actually experienced this where kids that are in my mentorship group that are in their 20s have said, well, my parents' words have reached their expiration date. And so when we're talking about being men of standards and how society looks at us and how society, is there a value for us? And this is something that I've said regarding just relationships on a whole. There has to be a hard reset, because you cannot sit there and talk about dual parent homes and having a partnership between a man and a woman and having kids that revere their parents and parents that revere their kids without these foundational qualities that we've talked about here tonight. I honestly believe that. Now, is it something that can never be recouped? I don't think so. I think that there is, but time is not always on our side. Tiffany said, I'm just going to show her comment here. Tiffany said, it all boils down to choice. Kids need options, no sugar coated left or right options to choose from at the earliest age. Yeah, I think that to a degree that in that it's where we as parents provide transparency, and we provide the balance for them to understand that they do have a choice, but also understand that choices do come with consequences. And not everything that is, to be cliche about it, not everything that glitters is gold. So, Paulo, what you got on that, man?
Yeah, I think we've conditioned people to be enamored with decision making. Then now we're so hell-bent on being individualistic, and we formulate a lot of the ways that we look, especially at children's development in this sense. My wife has found a new sort of ways to entertain herself, and it's watching content around gentle parenting. And it intrigued me, and I asked her, well, what's your opinion on gentle parenting? And she looks at it and goes, I don't understand it. And I don't understand it from the sense of, although children can be free in terms of how they are in development, but there are times that they require harsh stoppages. Do not go further beyond this line, because although the consequences might not be immediate, but you're now entertaining a pathway where it's going to build habits that are going to be extremely detriment to you and difficult to break at a later stage. Right. And oftentimes those things aren't going to be very gentle-like or very easy-putting, in the sense of you have two options to choose. And whether we're right or wrong in our assessment, I think for sort of deriving my experiences with my father is in the sense of you always have the options. You either have the options of retracting the actions and behavior that you do, or you face the consequences.
Right.
And the consequences should reflect what you'll receive in life when I am further from this realm. And I think when I look at, when I look at a lot of these conversation, and I agree wholeheartedly in the sense of children requires different ways of dealing with them. My son is very different to my daughter. I'm about to receive another son, which is a great blessing for me and my wife. But they will require different things, because it's not so much the child in the way that I look at it, in the way that I have conversation with my wife. It's us as parents. The reason why those children require different things is the time of the time that we conceive them. Later stage, we've developed into different things. Our growth have seen different pathways and seasons, and not only that, the time that they come into our lives, we've developed different tools to deal with different things. So they're exposed to that version of who we are. Therefore, they require different things. If we were stagnant, then that might be different. If I was the same man, was at the stage that I received my oldest, and the same man, time stood still. However, my wife was still able to conceive. Maybe there might be a different stories. But yeah, look, for me, And this is sort of indirectly referencing something that you and Jerk spoke to earlier. The idea of leadership when it comes to men. It is an unglamorous position to be in. And the reason why a lot of us have this conversation, and there's a lot of pushback, especially in this space, about men being leader, is that no one wants to do the shitty work. And that's essentially what a leader is that he gets to do all these really unsexy, unromantic things in order to pursue the vision of a family that is beyond the stretch of one generation. It moves and influences the second, the third, and hopefully the fourth, and further. So, even to the point of we become the foundation for a lot of the emotional toll and chaos of the family dynamic. You know, I've been asked on a couple of different podcasts, doesn't it get tiring being strong? You know, as a way of sort of combating my idea about men being vulnerable. Doesn't it get tiring? Doesn't it get tiring to be the strong all the time? And one of the things that I say is, I'm a man, therefore I do. There is no other way. The other option is destruction. Therefore, I have to be steadfast and immovable and be resilient to receive these things. And I'm accountable, and doing these things is me being accountable to the decision that I made to be with this woman, to build this family. I had to understand that I must develop either the capacity or the capability to be that rock and that foundation. And I accept that role from the day I chose to build a family. So, yeah, I don't know if I've answered that specifically, but Conrad, I appreciate that you're having this conversation because I think there was an earlier question posed in the chat, and I think it was by Tiffany. There are roadblocks and barriers to these conversations and these type of sort of mentality. And this is, unfortunately, this is only one of the very limited options that a lot of young men get. Gone are the days where a vast majority of men stood in principles and standards, where you didn't have to worry as a father that your child might be misbehaving around the neighborhood because you're understood another man's going to put him in order and send him home to you. And gone are those days. Now we have to find those in very specific areas, typically in sports. You mentioned that you coach basketball. Unfortunately, the standards now is limited to great coaches, great mentors. It's no longer just all men have the capacity to be great, therefore they practice the capability to be great.
That is facts. That is facts. That is facts. That is facts. Wow. Wow. You know, it's funny. It's you can get into these conversations, and it's, as we talk about, you know, being true to the task that either we create or envision to take on, whether it's the promise of marriage, the promise of partnership, the role and the mantle of fatherhood. I remember, you know, probably about 3 years ago, everybody was like, yeah. Well, not everybody, but the people that knew me was like, man, you know, you should get on YouTube. You should get on YouTube. Get on YouTube. How come you don't have a YouTube channel? And I said to them, I said, what am I going to get on YouTube and say? I'm like, you have to understand, you know me. You've seen my personal journey. You've seen my personal growth, and it's still not done yet. And you find it influential. Now magnify yourself by how much other, it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5, it could be 5,000. Can this be not replicated or duplicated, but can this be extended to others? And the more I've had, whether it's one-on-one conversations, been on other panels, or we're having conversations like this, it confirms that I don't need to acquiesce to a style. I need to remain resolute, disciplined, and accountable to that which first I promised myself, which was I'm going to. Okay, Tiffany asked one more. She actually has a comment here, but is that I'm going to remain resolute to that which I promised myself, which was I know somewhere, whether it's a young woman or a young man, is looking for something somewhere to reach out to them and say, okay, you might not have it all together, but you're not down and you're not out. But you do need to make the solid decision that if you're going to change, everything about you has to change. And you've got to do that first for yourself long before you can decide to do it for anybody else. And in fact, that is the catalyst for you to do it for other people. So I genuinely, I'm so glad about this conversation because it helped to confirm some things for me individually, and then collectively, it's like, okay, yeah, like, and it's, I don't want to use this term, but it's like when people say, okay, yeah, like, what's your niche? Okay, well, my niche is self-improvement, specifically for men. Because again, we're not having these conversations when I remember, and I'm going to kind of cap it off here before I read Tiffany's comment and put it up. But I remember I went to like a men's lunch eat-in or brunch eat-in. And these gentlemen, pastors and elders in a local church, very well established, married, kids. Some own properties, some own businesses, some were former city politicians, teachers, etc. And we were sitting down and we were having now the actual root of the discussion about, the development of men. So I said to the leaders that are here, I said, give me 5 things that I, as a young man, and I prefaced my question because I said, look, you guys are accomplished. You have respect and reputation within your community. You're resolute in your homes, and you've established to have another blueprint within the infrastructure of the city. So give me 5 things that I need as a young man to start implementing from this day right now to be able to maybe not be exactly where you are, but be in proximity of where you are, let's say 10 years, 20 years from now. And they all looked at me and they said, well, you got to pray and you got to have a relationship with God. I said, what? I go to church. I hear the sermons. I know this. Even if I'm quote unquote the sinner, I still know this. I said, give me 5 things. I'm going to repeat till this day, I've never gotten an answer. And I said, here's the problem with men reaching younger men. Because you can tell me and you can give me a form of religion, but if you read the Bible that you claim to preach by, Jesus got beyond religion and provided tangible examples and tangible solutions to how you're going to live your life for the better. The majority of those examples always started with, you've got to get up from where you are. You have to change your location, which means you've got to change your mind, which means you're going to have to rid yourself and have enough awareness and honesty with yourself to first say, okay, this thing, I may like it, but it is destructive to me. Whether it's my mindset, whether it's intellectual, emotional, physical, whatever it is destructive because I do not have the ability to balance this or approach it in a balanced way where it doesn't hinder me from either accomplishing a task throughout my day. So I'm going to have either the resolve to remove it or I just will not make it. I won't become. It's going to be it's like I'm enabling myself to self-destruction. So I've got to get to a place where I kind of remove myself from that. And whether it's Tiffany, I'm coming to you. Whether it's getting to the place where I'm mad about the fact that I wasted so much time, or I'm upset about it, that is not even a bad place to be. There's been many days where I personally have, man, I can't believe I wasted so much time. I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I did that. Okay, I need to not do this going forward, because I don't even have that time to sit there and say, well, maybe if I just skim a little bit here, I can do that. I don't have that anymore. Okay, Tiffany, we're gonna get into your comments, and then you know what, we are gonna log off, because one, we all need some sleep, we all need some rest, we all got things to do. I know right now it's 1:26 in the morning where I am, so I'm gonna relax and get some food and then go to my bed. Where are we? Where did she say? I don't want to miss. We got that. Okay, this is one. But what about the child who is detrimentally influenced by predatory adults? Adults we have grown to trust around our kids, and no one gets a pass. Yeah, I mean, that is.
You know what's great about children, Conrad, that I've come to find? Without our influence, they're a great judge of character. As an example, when I had my daughter, very rocky time between me and my parents. It got to a point where it was extremely toxic. And one of the things that my wife and I promised each other was, whatever we have going on with the adults in our life, especially extended family, we will not poison our children to the same thing. Should they want to go see their grandparents, we'll take them to their grandparents. We as the adults will have to hold on to whatever it is that we have towards each other. Children don't deserve to get that poison earlier on. And my daughter was extremely relentless in the ways that she would not want to go.
Yeah.
And it was very enlightening when we saw her gravitate towards my parents when the relationship came back around. And it was naturally, there was no conversation. And this is a little girl who was 5 at the time. She's now 6 going on 7. And she naturally gravitated towards him. Out of the blue, she started asking, as the relationship became a lot better, she started asking, oh, when are we going to go see Nanny and Poppy?
Right.
It's like, wow, that's the first time you've ever asked it. And I think children are great judgment of character if we don't allow our opinion on others to influence them. And the other thing in terms of protecting children, for me and my wife, there is no such thing as sleepover. Not even a party where we leave our children without either one of us there. Right. So until they develop that ability to have discernment with logic behind it, or at least something to back up why they decide the way that they are, it's up to me and my wife to show them the example of what healthy adults are, who have boundaries, who respect boundaries, and not only that, look at people with a sense of positivity. It's the only word I can draw right now, but it's that. And that's why I think for me it's very important, my dynamic with my wife. It's very much important so that we show our children, this is your barometer for healthy adults. And I want you to base it on that, so that when you come across people who don't show any inkling of what we practice, you already have a sense of, that's weird, that's strange. I didn't see my parents doing these things. I wonder why. And that will allow them to develop their own opinion.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great that she mentioned that as a comment.
No, 100%. She said to log her questions, but I'm actually going to answer it. So, Tiff, I never got an answer from those gentlemen. And I mean, ultimately, I know why. I never got an answer for them. And the reason why I say I know why is because I actually watched kind of life play out. And so what I've come to realize is something that we've actually talked about is that you can't give leadership. Leadership is a resolute quality that comes out of it. It's not necessarily, in my opinion, it's not necessarily something that is. Your resolve is, your accountability is, your determination is, your discipline is, your skill set, your awareness is. But they, pardon me a moment. You get okay, there we go. But they did not. I saw firsthand that what they claimed was not what it was, and time showed me that. And so now looking over the course, I can understand why they couldn't give me the answer. Um, Sometimes a lot of people are some people, and then when we talk about predatory adults, I'm not gonna. I feel like the adult who does not have a blueprint to be offered, whether it's to adults or children. And when I say blueprint, I mean words of wisdom, foundational, intellectual things, tangible gems that somebody can build their life off of. That is, in my opinion, the adult that's most predatory, aside from what we are speaking with. Oh, of course, yes, but exactly, they were with kids, and man, it still hurt my heart to this day that they couldn't give me, because I wasn't the only young man there. I was just the only young man that called it out. Um, Maybe you should have filled in the gap for them. I ultimately I did. And I mean, hopefully we'll get to a story time so I can tell the fullness of how that developed. I kind of felt like I knew it was going to go that way. So I kind of did. But I kind of did it in my own way. I did it outside of that circle because I have no time to kind of deal with men that get very childish when you quote unquote may show them up, and you're not necessarily even trying to show them up, you're just trying to fill in the gap, long story short. So yeah, um that's what it was. But you know what, we're all gonna sign off for today. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was afternoon when we started this, so it's Paulo, it's his nighttime now, and it's my early morning. So definitely to everybody that has rocked out with us for the last 3 hours. Paulo, I didn't anticipate this going this long, man. I'm very
Great
surprised.
conversation didn't go that long.
It was, man, you hit it right on the head. You hit it right on the head. But brother, go get your rest. Go relax. Tend to what you got to do. I appreciate you, and much love and respect to you for coming through. This will not be the last time. I'll be sharing some other stuff with you guys that I've already built up and had built up for the last couple of years, and I now know that the time is right. So I'm excited for what the future has for us. To those that are rocking out with us, there's been a lot of people that have interchanged in throughout the night, but Tiffany's been here, jumped with us from Facebook, even when Sony Music tried to put a block on our video. But you know what I mean? Like I said, we got skill sets that are interchangeable. So we'll cut a new song and get that going again and get our video back up. But don't worry, Tiff, we're gonna repost this and get everybody else on the same page. Well, I'm not even gonna drag it out. To all those, we love you. Salute, Paulo, brother. Peace, love, and blessings to you. Everybody else in the chat, everybody that's viewing this, peace, love all over the world. Darealreel out.